Roll call vote, or roll call quorum?
Stone?
Here.
Marcus?
Here.
Marcus?
Here.
Ms. Ramsey?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Mr. Rohan?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Chairman Wilson?
Present. Do we have a motion with respect to the meeting minutes of February 13?
Move for the minutes for the meeting of February.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Public comments. Do we have any public comments with respect to items which are not on the agenda? Mr. Nichols?
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I passed out a number of these. Half of you got the market, the other half got front porch, and then everybody has the four of the other ones. These are the things that downtown has done just in the last few months. Main Street has absolutely zero. I look back at some of the records, and on August 8th, you were supposed to have a fold-out for Beachside, and then you were promised you would get it definitely by September. September 2012 is gone. So I'm asking you to look at the kinds of things that downtown does for itself that we're not doing. I still firmly believe that we are a tourist destination, that many of our businesses on the beachside depend on tourists. If the city does not take care of our properties, if they don't give us the support for tourism, for Main Street, for the CRA, it's to our detriment. These are the kind of things that help people enjoy downtown. I'm asking you to consider the same kind of things for people to enjoy our beachside. Thank you.
Reed, what is the status on this? And is there a difference between downtown funding and Main Street funding as to why they have such nice literature and we are lacking?
Sure. The events, brochures, and a lot of the things that are put together, the branding that's been done for downtown is through the Downtown Development Authority. It's a separate taxing body. And they are utilizing their funds to do the marketing for downtown. So, and they also are running the farmers market and doing a number of significant nice things downtown. We do not have such a funding source or staffing that's over on the Main Street side at this time.
Right. At this time. But we're supposed to be doing something about some mapping out there and such to...
Absolutely. We have not had time to pull together any kind of mapping. We don't have the resources right now to move forward financially to just go out and hire somebody that does it on a regular basis as we did downtown. We actually created some maps and those brochures using a couple different groups to put that all together, what you see.
Do we have any idea what the budget would be to put together a map and such?
I'd be glad to do. I like to bring that back for you next time.
Maybe if we get
Sure.
a budget and idea, and maybe we have a Main Street group and some other Seabreeze businesses can get together and, I don't know, but at least that'll give us a starting point.
Yes, and I would just say in the downtown, too, the focus is primarily on the 3-block area where they are doing that. So it's somewhat workable in terms of size and that they were dealing with.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll get you some of that information.
Okay.
I have a follow-up, an idea that follows up the line of thought that you're going on there. Since I've been on the board, I have believed that we've pretty much been a reactive board. In other words, people bring their special projects and what they want to get approved in the CRA, and we vote or recommend on those. I would suggest that since we are the Main Street and South Atlantic Redevelopment Board, that we set aside a few minutes, 12 times a year when we meet, to just exchange ideas, thoughts, creative concepts of what we could maybe do to steer towards getting Main Street redeveloped. And not waiting until everything is bright and shiny over there and the hotels come in. It seems to me that that would not be a bad use of a few minutes of our time.
And anytime on the board comments, that's really what we have it on the agenda for, is new ideas and new concepts, and where can we go without something coming to us, so.
Well, I would think, since I'm a fairly recent new member, I wouldn't know that unless we specifically said, okay, this is the 10 minutes or the 15 minutes that we're just going to open it up to a discussion between the board members, and just have an open discussion without asking to speak and that sort of thing. I think it's a good idea, and I just would like to know if anybody else thinks that's a good idea.
Right at the board comments, let's bring up whatever you want to discuss
Okay.
that relates to the Main Street area and what we can do out there.
So would we do that at the beginning of the meeting, do you think, or at the end?
No, we do it in the board comments section.
At the very end, okay. All right,
Okay?
okay.
All right, thank you. Any other public input? All right. Items 5 and 6 are really the same project, so I would suggest that we actually have them presented together, and then we can vote on them in whatever order Carrie thinks is appropriate. But that way we can have one presentation and have it comprehensive. And are you going to do a little intro, or we're going to go right to the applicant?
Actually, I'm going to take you right through all of the technical, boring details, if you don't mind.
All right, save Rob
And-
that.
That's right. And I also have handed out the presentation for tonight, just so if you're unable to see that close up, there is a handout here of those. It might be easier for you to see some of the detail on a few of the slides. I think most of it everyone should be able to see, but there's an example of one you won't see very easily. And as soon as I'm not doing that, am I? Who's moving the slides around? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to begin by letting you know that we have two requests that are submitted by Rob Merrill on behalf of Sunoco Corporation, and we have the applicant here. The owners, being Sunoco, are here represented tonight in the audience, and certainly we have a number of people that are from the neighborhood that are here also interested in the proposal. The first part of this proposal is a text amendment, because if there is not a change in the text in our land development code that says that you right now have to have a convenience store in some of these areas throughout, in the T4, the T3, these are tourist districts, you can have it by right, but not in, that's prohibited in the redevelopment area in South Atlantic in two specific areas. And that is those lots that are abutting the south side of International Speedway, and convenience stores are also prohibited in Land Development Code for those lots that are abutting the west side of Atlantic Avenue. So that's where the code stands now in terms of how it looks at convenience stores. Well, what's being proposed here is a fueling station, a gas station, that's there now and being redeveloped as a fueling station with a convenience store. It's the model not only of Sunoco, but most of the stations now that are fueling stations have a convenience store model of some kind at some level. So as you look around town, you look at the change that's happened. A convenience store with fueling station is something that's become more than normal. Just like you see some of these fueling stations that are restaurants that they have inside as well in some of these buildings. So just going through the text request itself, rather than just saying prohibiting convenience store, the applicant is asking to say, and I'll put this up here again, see if we can see it, convenience stores adding without light vehicular service, parentheses, convenience stores with fueling facilities shall be only permitted at the intersection of arterial roadways and must be approved through a planned development rezoning. That's a lot of words. That's another way of saying that there are three intersections, where if someone went through a planned development process, like the one that we're looking at this evening, you could have at the intersection of Peninsula and ISB, ISB and Atlantic and Silver Beach, would allow for a fueling station with a convenience store under this proposal. So there's physically three different intersections that would be impacted. So that's something to keep in mind. It's reduced quite a bit from just saying you can have convenience stores all along Atlantic Avenue. And let me, I'm going to just jump to a map here. This is Atlantic Avenue, and the redevelopment area is shaded there over the commercial areas. I think it's on page 4 in the handout for the presentation. And what you see there at the very bottom is the Sunoco site, the proposed redevelopment, is at the far end of the South Atlantic area. And you can see the intersections that I spoke of earlier. That's the big picture. You have to look at this text amendment as if it's going to affect more than just Sunoco if this is approved. It's still very limited, and it goes through a public process, not only here, but this has to come before the Planning Board and the City Commission to get the approval for this type of development. Now I'm going to go back to the definitions of convenience store. And I think it's about 24, I don't have it in front of me, but about 2,500 square feet for the convenience store that is being proposed. Convenience stores are allowed in other areas of the tourist zoned areas of T3 and T4 up to 5,000 square feet. Anything larger than that, then you're getting into a grocery store. But that's our definition. The vehicular service is the other component that's being requested to be added here. What that does is requires that if you're going to have a convenience store, you have to have a facility providing fueling and minor servicing of self-propelled vehicles such as gasoline service stations, fuel pump islands, and car wash operations, including incidental retail sales of tires and other nominal automotive accessories. So it's important just to understand that those definitions would apply in this case if this text amendment went through. That's what we would be using. The issues that I want to walk you through is, number one, convenience stores are a permitted use in the T3 and T4. We've already mentioned that. Light vehicular service is permitted use in the T4 zone. And that is where the current gas station is located now, where the canopies would be located in the future on the proposed Sunoco site. The T3 lot on Ruger Place, that is at the corner there with Silver Beach, is not abutting Atlantic Avenue. So just as a technicality, that lot is not actually abutting that. I'm not making any arguments here, just want to point that out and let you know that a convenience store, if there were not this prohibition, would be permitted by right on that lot, that vacant lot. The next thing to point out is that the RP lot, that's the third lot that we're talking about, allows apartment buildings, business, and professional services. This is where there was a home that was demolished and was acquired and assembled as a part of this proposed Sunoco development. So that is something that you need to keep in mind as well. Only the fueling stations, we know already at the intersection of the arterial streets is another limitation we're talking about. And finally, the PCD rezoning allows the neighborhood to have a lot more input into this rather than just administrative approval of something that's normally permitted by right. But at this time, the landscape today is prohibition of the convenience store element here. Now,
Reed, so I understand.
Yeah.
The gas station would be allowed today, is that correct?
yes, it would.
Okay.
And it would not be allowed on the T4 if someone wanted to put a gas station. It can't. It's not physically possible either, but where the gas station is currently located, it would be allowed. Okay. So going over to a map here that shows the big picture, the zoning, and you can see all that blue that's along there on Atlantic Avenue is all that tourist district we talked about, T3 and T4. So it really applies to a lot of property in there. Therefore, reducing the area that you can do this to just the intersections was something to try to limit the spread of convenience stores in the area. The future land use is important to point out is this area is all retail from Lenox Avenue south on the west side. That's what the future land use calls for. The entire Sunoco site that we're looking at, including the RP zone, is retail land use. Okay? I'll give you a closer look at that site because it's a little hard to read from that particular map. Now, I thought this might be helpful is just to point out when you look at the existing gas station, you can see on the lot where the gas station is now, that's where the canopy will be located in the future. So that gives you the location of each of those buildings that's overlaid. We put this straight over, and so it all lined up with the property lines, and these graphics will show you roughly where those lines are located. You can see the orange box there, that rectangle. That's the principal building. That would be the A-plus convenience store, the walls of that building and where it's located. As you can see, it's right there, just inside the T3 zone property. And you go down to the next picture there, and you can see this is a zoning map. Now, this is taken from our GIS. It's not exact in the lines, so you'll see that the zoning lines don't match up. That's just our computer and how it makes it look, but they're intended to be all lining up with the property lines of the lots. So as you look at where the RP is, for example, that is going to be just outside of the location of where the current convenience store is located. I want to draw your attention now to the redevelopment plan, because we have a need to look at the policies every time we deal with any development and ask ourselves, are we following the policy of the plan that we have in place today? The land use is really something that's looked at and mapped in the South Atlantic Plan. Remember, this was created in 2001, so it's not one of our older plans. And what we did was pulled out the exhibits. This one is Figure 3 from the plan, and these are the recommended amendments to the generalized future land use plan. There is Sunoco is at the very bottom, and there is no designation for any kind of recommended land use change in that area. So going back to my comment before, the existing land use for the future, that land use is shown as retail. So that's the designation. It isn't recommended for any change in our redevelopment plan. I'll take you another step further in just a minute. The convenience stores and the prohibition in our redevelopment plan is, you will find it there, and that is policy 1.1.7. And it says, future land uses along the west side of Atlantic Avenue in this redevelopment area shall be controlled as prescribed below. Examples of undesirable uses to be prohibited in the future as the area is redeveloped is convenience stores. And again, that's policy. That's what's recommended in the plan. It's not the regulatory document. But since this plan was created in 2003, that text change did occur in the Land Development Code, so it does mimic what that plan says. But I want you to be able to tie that all together in here. The interesting point is when you get down to the East International Speedway Boulevard, it says examples of desirable uses to be allowed in the future as the area is redeveloped is automobile fueling facility with convenience items. So what it's saying is on International Boulevard, it's okay, but it remains silent in listing this as a desirable use with a fueling station on Atlantic Avenue, okay? So it's just not mentioned in the list. What's interesting is right now, if you want to have a convenience store, whether it's a principal or accessory, the Land Development Code actually prohibits this automobile fueling facility with convenience items because you can't have the convenience items. You can have the fueling station. Do you follow me? Or do I need to spend a little time on this one? Because
Excuse me, but you're saying you can have the fueling station, but you cannot have the convenience store under the current law?
yeah, the current
Code.
prohibition as it's
Prohibition.
written.
Okay.
So in other words, it's just pointing out, it's not perfect when you make a law or whatever we're doing. We're just pointing out that is something that if this were to change, that would make that desirable use something that would come back in on International. Again, I'm trying to give you the big picture because we're affecting the whole South Atlantic.
But only in 3
Redevelopment.
locations would it be allowed?
3 locations because we're saying, it says in there, in that amendment, just the arterial road intersections, where they intersect.
So I have another question, Reed.
Yeah.
It's already a filling station, operating filling station, so it's grandfathered in to be that anyway, is it not? The whole reason for this whole thing is they want to improve and renovate their building.
Absolutely. This is, when you come in and expand, and if they
Is that
want to,
right?
I'll let the applicant speak to this later.
Okay.
But I'm saying that the intent is to redevelop, and when you redevelop the property, the plan that we have, the redevelopment plan, speaks to the need to redevelop this corner to assemble the lots, and I'll get to that in just a second for you and show you that in the rest of the case coming up. But I want to finish up the text amendment if I can.
Reed,
Go ahead, Reed.
does the city designate what is a major city thoroughfare? Like, for instance, Oak Ridge Boulevard, is that an arterial road that's a major thoroughfare for the city?
Oak Ridge Boulevard is a major thoroughfare. It's listed as that.
Okay.
But I've provided you a list of those roads that are located, that affect the redevelopment areas
Oak Ridge would not
only.
be included within this land?
Oak Ridge is not included. It's just there because it was interface and redevelopment. I left out I-95 and Williamson and a few others because it was a longer list
We're
in the
talking about the
code.
redevelopment area, and we're talking about the,
We're just talking South Atlantic, so you got 3 arterial streets.
okay, all right.
Go ahead, Reed.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to jump now from the text amendment part of the presentation to the next piece, which is the PCD request, the Planned Commercial Development Request. And this gives you a closer look at the location of the CRA boundaries. You will note that the one parcel is not located in the CRA boundary that's a part of this project. That in no way precludes you from looking at the total unified project going forward here. But that was not included in the original. And that background on that is when South Atlantic CRA was being proposed, there were significant concerns by the residents that were in the neighborhood to be they wanted to be excluded from a redevelopment area. That was something that was part of that whole process. So lots of different properties were excluded. Some were included through the creating the boundaries. So I don't know why this was or was not included, but I want to point that out to you. It again, does not affect your ability to review the entire site. As you look at the table, if you don't have any questions about that, I'm going to move on to the comprehensive plan issue.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This new plan
Yes.
is not just on the footprint of where the existing filling station is operating now. It's actually including this lot that's adjacent to Rutgers. Rutgers?
Right. On Ruger, the
Ruger.
RP lot, we'll call it the RP lot
Yes.
for the sake of giving it some identification. That vacant lot is where they currently are planning to place the detention pond area. You'll see that on the site plan going forward here. So that open space that's going to be created by that depressed green area that will hold the stormwater
Yes.
and let it drain, that is the RP lot. That's what it'll be used for. There's a little bit of the canopy from what we saw in the drawing that touches the easternmost part of that lot and crosses over that RP lot. Okay? So I'll show that to you again.
All right.
All right? The excerpt from the comprehensive plan I want to bring your attention to, because we look through the comprehensive plan for something that may be of concern, and I know that Neighborhood C, which this involves, has an area of Silver Beach, if you're going from Peninsula towards A1A, Atlantic Avenue, that is shown as a professional business district along there. The zoning, that's what the intent is for that corridor. The issue is the Silver Beach Avenue area is located on a major city thoroughfare. There is always pressure to commercialize such thoroughfares, quoting out of the comprehensive plan. The policy that's been established for the neighborhood is that Silver Beach Avenue shall be preserved as an office transitional district containing professional offices and multifamily uses. No commercial retail zoning will be extended into the area. The zoning will not be extended into this area on Silver Beach Avenue. That RP lot that we're talking about is already retail. It is already shown in the comprehensive plan as a future retail area, and the lots that are fronting on Silver Beach are retail. Okay, so I do not see this as any encroachment into the Silver Beach office transitional district. This is, again, a closer map of that zoning and the future land use. And you can see, I just want to point out that the house that's located to the south, that's still there today, is in the retail future land use for this area. It's not residential in the future. Okay?
Reed, can you show me the house you're talking about?
Okay. Should I do this so I don't want anyone? Okay, I'm going to point to that area right there, just south, on the south side of the proposed Sunoco boundary on Ruger.
Yeah.
Now let me see if I've got a air photo here.
Is that 1219, 1221, that area you're looking at on there?
It's 1221, it's a house.
Okay.
Is that a greenhouse?
Page 9. read
Yes.
Tom.
Okay.
There, wait a minute, right there. So that shows you on the aerial on page 9 that the house is just on the south side of the Sunoco project. That is designated as retail in the future land use plan
Is
today.
that house still there, or was it torn down? Still there?
One's still there, one's torn down.
The one that's torn down that we're talking about, it was included as assembly of the Sunoco redevelopment site. Okay? That's now a vacant lot. But the single-family house that's still there is shown as retail in the future. It is zoned residential, so that part matches. Okay.
Excuse me, if the commentary from the audience continues, you'll be asked to leave. That's the third time. Please,
Okay, now I want to...
get your opportunity to speak.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. Okay, the redevelopment plan supports the commercial redevelopment of the site. And the policies are in the same land use policy where it speaks about the prohibition of convenience stores. They are namely, and I'm going to read this for the benefit of those that are here in the audience. Number 1, encourage the continued use and improvement of the existing commercial areas for businesses and facilitate growth in the employment through high-quality commercial accommodations and service development. To encourage mixed-use projects combining various compatible land uses. The third point is prohibit the spread of small lot commercial development. The next is develop a regulatory mechanism that encourages the assembly of lots to meet contemporary development requirements. And the last one is encourage the assembly of property generally as shown in Figure 4, potential redevelopment sites and conceptual revised thoroughfare system. And that is this map, which real hard to see from there, but the Sunoco property is designated here as number 11 on the map. And then there is a corresponding table in our plan that says that lot number 11 should be all commercial, and it is a moderate priority for redevelopment in this plan. And it shows the entire area that is in the CRA to be assembled. It does not show the RP lot because it was not in the CRA boundary. Therefore, it's not included. So I go on now to what is now proposed. And this is the site plan that shows you the basic layout of the building and where you saw it already on the map before, and the canopy, and the parking spaces there, and the detention sites, there's 2 of them, are on the south end towards the residential area. These act as the space between the buildings and the canopy and the parking, as you have that open space there. And there may be some things I'm just going to pass over, but I think if the applicant wants to, they could speak to it afterwards. The next thing I want to bring your attention to is the landscape plan. when this project came to us in the beginning, it was conceptual, and there wasn't any really landscaping. As it transitioned and came before at the neighborhood meetings, there wasn't a whole lot of detail on landscaping still, but one of the concerns was how much pavement are we going to have here, and can we get some of the pavement out of there? That's particularly when we look along the edges of the streets, the pedestrian area, we wanted to see that area upgraded and improved by having a lot of that pavement, concrete, all removed and put landscaping in there wherever possible. And this, I think, begins to do exactly that. They've removed an access drive that was there closer to the intersection, which also helps for safety reasons. They have moved the one access drive that's located closest to the intersection on Silver Beach and moved it further towards Ruger so that it's about halfway in between, and that makes that a safer intersection when cars are stacking there as well. So, and they've kept them as narrow as you can keep a commercial drive. So we don't have this large expanse. If you're a bicyclist or a pedestrian, you're walking along Silver and Atlantic Avenue, it gives you a little more of a sense of separation between cars, automobiles, people on the lot or on the street. What helps even more so is that those access drives are going to have the decorative pavers in there. And that's be helpful in defining exactly where, the car should stop and not that they always do, but I think that's a step in the right direction. And then lastly, something we brought to their attention is if you've ever seen that corner of Silver Beach and Atlantic, it's got utility poles and boxes and everything right in the middle of the sidewalk. I don't know why we did that, but there it is. So they have provided a way for that sidewalk to go across their property and allow for the continued travel unimpeded at that corner. So I think that those are some of the benefits we see in working with them on this project. The rest of it, in terms of details, you got your architectural facade. There's a whole list of the different kinds of materials that are here. It's not just one type of material. There's a stone face on the wall. The lower portion that's there is something that you'll also see some color renderings of. They've tried to carry out that to the sign base and some other features in the accessory building so that you're not just seeing it in one place, you're seeing this continuity throughout the site. And that's something that when you do a plan development, you're looking for some of those architectural features there. They also provide that metal seam roof that you do see some of those types of roofs through our area in Florida, and this is something I think that they could have gone up and done one of the peaks, but again, that's just putting more mass into the sky, and so I think that we're happy with the architecture as it's presented. It provides, I think, enough of a distinction between a typical gas station and what this one is attempting to do, and the windows and the way they have them right now so that you can see into the building and out is helpful so that you can have a full view out the windows. And then the other piece I think everyone is interested in is the wall. Originally, it was a plan for a fence to go around the perimeter, a vinyl fence. Now they're looking at putting a masonry wall, which is what we're requiring. They're putting columns at intervals along here and a decorative fence at the upper portion of that wall. So that will also be something that will go around the entire perimeter of the west side and on the south side up to where the commercial lots are located on A1A. The canopy is a typical Sunoco canopy we've seen elsewhere. It has the curved edges. It has the rounded columns. It has that unified look, and this gives you a sense of how wide it is. And this is important because if you're looking at it from the south, you're going to see more of the end of this canopy and what it looks like. That'll give you a sense of the size compared to that car and the pump. All right? The graphics, I think the applicant wanted to take you through a lot of these slides, so rather than me walk through those, I'm just going to stop right here and if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, allow the applicant to come up.
Sure. Mr. Merrill?
Not sure what else there is to say after all that. Rob Merrill for the record with Cobb Coal 150 Magnolia here in downtown Daytona Beach. I'm here on behalf of Sunoco. I've got several folks here with me. I want to take time to introduce them. Some of them came from as far away as Philadelphia, so I wanted to ask you to welcome them.
They're just getting out of the cold.
Here tonight. Yeah, exactly. Rolando Bedhart's here, actually from Tampa. Clayton McCain from Sunoco, also from Philadelphia. Our architect, Mark Metzger, in the front row there. Peter Maher, civil engineer, and Mark Creel, who's here on behalf of the contractor. I probably would want to take up where you left there, Reed. And actually, we have actually what I call a video, but I think it's just it's a moving picture of the architectural slides that I want to try to show you. So if you could tee that up, we'll start with that, I think. Yeah, I don't know if you all know this. I actually have shown you this before in another context, but when the architecturals are done on these types of projects, you can actually create a three-dimensional view, so I thought that'd be a good place to start. Kind of gives you a feel for what something's really going to look like on the ground. So roll it. So coming in, this is looking at it from the north and west. From the intersection, of course. Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I got to stay with you on this from the audience. I'm going to do my part, then they're going to do their part, then I'm going to respond, and that's pretty much the way this needs to be done in order to have some protocol, I think. From A1A, you can see, of course, sort of the feel for the site, landscaping-wise, access-wise, architectural. Yeah, I'm going to give you some slides of this that'll give you a little more detail. That was where Reed was starting. So here we are coming across coming down Silver Beach towards the intersection. And that would be facing south.
What are the outbuildings that are on the north side?
Probably a trash.
One of them is a trash dumpster that's behind a fence. The other, so it's not a building; it's a fenced-in dumpster area. And the other one is a storage building of some sort. Is that correct? Storage area. Again, getting a feel for the scale, the architecture, and that gives you the moving pictures. I want to show you the still pictures and then talk about it just for a second. If you'll put those up for me, the ones you started with Reed, and then he stopped. In the meantime, we can look at the picture of me up there. Thanks, guys. Oh, on that one we have the Main Street Pier. All right, here's what I'm going to do.
I think you're trying to get them to page 19 of Reed.
This has happened before. As a matter of fact, at this meeting. I was sworn enough to bring along some hard copies. I'm going to pass it out. Unfortunately, this is something that we can't go over with the audience as easily, but I'll pass them around if you're. These are just my color stills.
Here we go.
I'm going to give them to you anyway. Never know when that might stop. I'm a big fan of paper, but I'm old. All right, so as you're getting those, the first shot is the sort of the beginning of that video. I just showed you the still looking east from in the air, essentially from Silver Beach. And what I would ask you to take away from that shot is a little bit of the beginning of the architectural theme on the right. You'll see that there's some stonework on the bottom of the building. The block you see there is their standard split face block that they use, as well as stucco, and then standing seam metal roof, as Reed had mentioned. In the foreground, you'll see some of the landscaping, what I would consider to be modest signage. I believe we're allowed to use a pole sign here, but we went with a monument sign. From a scale standpoint, I think you can appreciate that in the foreground is the beginning of Ruger Place that runs back into the neighborhood. And I'm sorry I didn't recognize the neighbors that are here tonight as I recognized my folks that came here, because we've had 3 meetings now with most of the folks here that are here, and then many other people in addition to them that are not here tonight, and talked about the neighborhood. And I've recognized all along this is a historic, beautiful neighborhood that's the houses have been well taken care of, if not, substantially renovated. It's a nice neighborhood, so our intent is to be respectful of it, and I'm hoping that the plan I'm going to walk you through here is recognized that way. On the next page, you've got 4 slides. Upper left-hand side there is looking from A1A directly into the site, and as Reed mentioned, the access into the site is much more controlled than it is previously. And I would point out to you that one of the things that is not on this plan is any access from the residential area to the west, which could happen, which could have happened had you not been brought a plan that was a PUD. On the upper right-hand side, gives you a view again from the intersection as we panned around in the video. Again, kind of getting a feel for the landscaping and the architecture of the building. In the bottom left-hand side, unfortunately, that graphic doesn't give you the texture, if you will, of that wall, which is a split-face block masonry wall with the wrought iron, aluminum wrought iron on the top of it. Decorative wall that was a result of a lot of back and forth with the staff, as well as input from the neighbors. And then on the bottom right-hand side gives you a picture of the actual front of the building. Again, you get a little more of a flavor for the materials that are in the structure itself. And then probably one of the most important shots is the last shot. You've got folks here from the neighborhood who are concerned about compatibility and the interface with the neighborhood. There it is. That is the residential street, Ruger Place, that enters their neighborhood. And we think, gone to great lengths to not only provide four-sided architecture to the building, which you'll see all of the things that you saw in the front of the building in terms of the dimensions in the roof, the materials on the wall, all the articulation and such wrapped completely around the building as if there were an entrance on the back, which there is not. You also see the wall that Reed spoke of, decorative masonry wall with the wrought iron, as well as the landscaping on both sides of the wall set back 10 feet from the road so that you have a buffer that's actually outside of the wall and one that's behind the wall. And you see that there are oak trees. I'm not sure what maturity they're shown there, but our landscape architect could speak to that if you like. But essentially, we're going to look for, in the long term, a complete landscape visual buffer between the neighborhood and the building. These pictures were done by our architect, and sometimes the architects want to be able to see the building, which we asked them to do. So that's the reason it's not a complete wall of green there. Probably the most important thing I'm going to say to you tonight, especially from her standpoint, is all the stuff Reed gave you about what the comp plan says, what the redevelopment plan said, and what the zoning book says, and it sounded pretty complicated to me, and I've been doing zoning law for 25 years. And I'm sorry, Reed, I didn't mean to say that you made it complicated. It's just there's a lot of stuff there. I'm going to try to simplify it somewhat from my perspective, and I'm going to involve Carrie and Reed in the conversation. Reed, can you show that future land use map again? Let's start with that. Oh boy, I'm really going to get confusing here, I guess. It's the one that has a lot of colors on it, and it had a lot of red, like a pinkish red.
Page 11.
Well, I know you know what it is. I'm trying to get
Scrolling back.
Page 11.
Keep going. Keep going. There you go. Okay. I'm going to just start with this one. This one has a few colors on it, and it's pretty straightforward, I think. But it is extremely important to your understanding of this whole zoning, comp plan, redevelopment plan business that Reed went through. The property, can everybody see this one I'm pointing at? Okay, the property Reed was talking about that has a house on it is here. Is that right, Reed?
That's correct.
And then we own all the rest of the property here, including a place where a house used to be, right there. That red color is retail, commercial, future land use. Now, when Reed said that, I heard some grumblings in the audience, well, future, yeah, well, future, what does that mean? I mean, what significance does that have? I think some of you guys know the significance, but I'm going to ask Carrie, just to make it clear for the record. We have a situation where there is a mixture of zoning on that same piece of property. The little piece back here that has the house, they used to have the house on it, is zoned residential professional, which is an office type zoning, a kind of a transitional zoning. Now, I don't know why that zoning is on that piece of property. I don't know the history of it. I didn't go back and look at 30 years worth of records to see. But I do know that the comp plan designation that's been there for quite some time, since 1990, 91, is retail commercial. The redevelopment area plan was developed. Reed read you a bunch of stuff from that and good and bad things for the project. But ultimately, the Bible for what you do tonight, the thing you have to look at and you have to be consistent with, is that. Carrie, it's just a yes or no answer. True or false? If we have a zoning classification on part of this property that is what people would prefer to a convenience store, namely a little boutique office or a doctor's, a lawyer's office, or a real estate office or something, and that's inconsistent with the retail, commercial, future land use, which one wins? Which one has to be
You usually want to rezone to be consistent with your comp plan, but there's some existing.
Usually, state law says you have to be consistent.
Okay.
Have to be. True or false?
True, but
Okay, that's all I was heading for. What we've got here is we got a situation, and it's not unusual. Back in 1985, the legislature adopted this Growth Management Act we've been living by since then, and it said we're going to do comprehensive plans, and we always had. They've been around since the 50s, 60s, 70s, but they sat on a shelf and didn't mean much. It was a plan. Boards like you guys spent lots of time late at night away from your families coming up with these plans, and they never went anywhere. 1985, the legislature said these plans are going to have the force of law. And that's what the Growth Management Act did. It said you must be consistent with your comprehensive plan in everything you do. Building permits, variances, special exceptions, whatever you do, rezonings, they all have to be consistent. And if there's an inconsistency, the comprehensive plan is what you go by. So I'm telling you all this because when these guys bought this piece of property, this is not some small entity that doesn't do a lot of real estate transactions. They do them all over the world. They looked at this and said, okay, we've got retail, commercial, future land use on this piece of property. We're good to go. Now, some of the things that Reed told you about no convenience stores on the west side of A1A, it's in your redevelopment plan. Arguably, it's inconsistent with what it says about ISB, which leads to the requested amendment, which is very fine-tuned to deal with, like we talked about, major arteries that intersect in this redevelopment area. That came out of that specific nuance that Reed pointed out to us actually during this process. But the key thing is retail commercial. So when I look at that, I say, well, what does that mean? What does that entitle this property owner to have? Because I'm not trying to force anything on you guys. I'm just trying to tell you what the realm is that we're operating within. When you look at the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, it defines commercial. And there's several types, different gradients of commercial. One of them is professional office. And that's probably what would have gone on that RP zone property had somebody come along and bought that for that purpose. Could have put a lawyer's office there or a doctor's office or something else. But other gradients include low-intensity commercial, office transitional, tourist accommodations, commercial amusement, and retail. Retail's that red color. And it says, an area composed primarily of retail establishments, but typically containing other commercial uses, including amusements, located in planned zoning districts. The floor area ratio shall not exceed 3, and the residential density shall not exceed 40 dwelling units per acre. That's one of the most densities that you have in the city. From a residential density standpoint, it's the most dense, and the 3 FAR is the second most. What 3 FAR means is you can build a building to the property boundaries 3 stories high. That's how much building you can put on this piece of property based on the land use. So the next step you look at is, well, what zoning classifications are allowed in this? Well, it's very simple. I'm going to look to them again to confirm, because I don't want you to think I'm making an argument here. I'm telling you what's in your code, in your comp plan. They have a matrix. It essentially says, here's the zoning classifications for this land use. Here's the zoning classifications for that land use. And so what I'm looking at here is the commercial land use. Commercial, and then there's the list of the different ones that I just talked about. And under retail, I'm going to read you the list of zoning that we have to be within one of these zoning categories. BR1, BR2, BA, BW, T3, T4, T5, M1, PCD. That's what I'm asking for tonight. PMD, another type of PD. HID, no idea what that is. AG, as a holding classification, it says. So obviously the agriculture is not an appropriate holding classification here. So really looking within the realm of the rest of those are all either industrial or heavy business uses. I don't think that the BRs and the BWs, that allow manufacturing and those sort, I don't think those are appropriate here. So we have we're really kind of down to the T's, T3, T4, T5, and then PD. But all of those are retail, commercial type uses. And I know these folks would rather have a doctor's office there or a little boutique type of office type situation. It's not allowed. That's not what's appropriate here. That's in a whole different category. There's office transition, and then there's low-intensity commercial, and then there are other grades of commercial. I don't know why that says retail commercial, but that's what it says. I also don't know why there's a prohibition on convenience stores in those particular areas. I was told, I don't know the legislative history on it, I was told it had something to do with drug, trafficking or something happening outside of the convenience stores that, okay, so there you have it. Do we want convenience stores that are those type of convenience stores? That's not what I'm bringing you here tonight. By looking at the pictures, I think it should be clear to you, and someone said it up here, what are they looking to do? They're looking to take away a gas station with a convenience store in it that's been there since the 60s and replace it with a modern facility. Would the neighbors rather have something else there? I'm sure they would. I'm sure they'd rather have nothing happen there. But there are a lot of things happening on the beach side right now, we hope. And this is consistent with that. I think that you're getting a very clear directive from your staff. And I need to say, for the record again, that everything that he's brought to you in paper and everything that's in his file, I don't want to go through it all tonight with you because it'll be a long night, but I want to make it part of the record. But I do want to say a few things about his report and highlight a couple things that I think, in addition to this most important thing that I know I've probably spent too much time on already, the future land use designation, the comprehensive plan, and what it says to us. We don't have much choice about that. That is given to us by state law. We have to abide by it. Reed talks about the history of the project. He talks about the meetings we've had. He's been to the meetings we've had with the neighbors. I do think that we've gone through an extensive effort. You've seen the evidence in the landscaping, the architecture, the setbacks, the buffering that we've done as a result of those meetings and the meetings with Reed and his staff. All of those meetings with Reed and his staff result in a very extensive record of exchanges, technical items mostly, locations of driveway entrances, extent of landscaping, architecture on the building, etc. All those are part of your record tonight, too, and I'm not going to go through them each individually. But I will point to generally the criteria that Reed's given you here. I hope you've read, because he goes through systematically and talks about the site plan review criteria, the rezoning review criteria, consistency with the comprehensive plan. He talks about transportation impacts and things that are being made better by this project. Again, I mentioned no access on Ruger Place. No cars are going to be coming in and out of this site. But if someone were to come forward and piecemeal this project, let's say just the little house that got torn down, that's the RP zoning, that also has commercial retail land use. If someone was to come in and say, I want to build something there, they could. And they'd have a driveway. And that driveway would be on Ruger Place. Same with the property just to the north of it. It could be built as a separate development. If this project were to stay the way it was and these guys decide to go back to Philadelphia and not invest in that property, they could sell off those two pieces. I gave you a letter that was part of your package too that talks about some of the public benefits. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but it also has a chart that talks about the upsizing of the landscaping, so you can see for your purposes in detail that my statements about the landscaping have some factual basis to them. Various things that we did in terms of pedestrian access. I think on this site there's a giant power pole that's right in the middle of the sidewalk. We're doing some rerouting and some putting of pavers in the driveways to make it clear that you can walk safely around the property as a pedestrian. You know, the staff report reaches several conclusions that I'm not going to go through in detail, but talking about the appropriate scale, relationships between buildings, compatibility with the neighborhood, and it's all right in line with the things that you all need to have in terms of findings in order to approve the zoning tonight. He talks about the different places in the comprehensive plan where this is consistent with promoting business interests and economic development and such. I'm not going to go into that, but there's a lot of meat on those bones too. I want to point out to you that most of the time when I'm here with PDs, you guys see me asking for something. I'm asking for a waiver or a list of waivers, and I'm giving you a list of what I'm bringing. Bigger land, more landscaping, better architecture, pavers instead of asphalt, etc. In this case, we're bringing those things, but we're not asking for any waivers. This is not a two-sided negotiation, it's a one-sided negotiation. So with that, Reed brings you a recommendation of approval. I did want to point out to you, Reed mentioned this, and I just want to reemphasize it because even in your segment of the comp plan, your redevelopment area plan, it talks about prohibiting spread of small lot commercial development, which is exactly how this would piece out if these guys went back to Philadelphia. It also talks about encouraging assembly of lots to meet contemporary development requirements. That's what happened here. They have this parcel that's big enough now to build and meet all the setback requirements and exceed them where they couldn't before. The site they're on now, it's physically impossible. And then the thing this was actually news to me before tonight, the maps, Reed's got several black and white maps attached to his report, and he put a couple of them on the screen. I'm not going to try to get you back over there, but I think that they're particularly telling. And the first one is site potential, South Atlantic Avenue redevelopment area, figure 4. It says potential development sites. This is one of them. I mean, it identifies it by acreage. It doesn't include the one with the small house that got demolished because it's not in the CRA, but it includes all the rest of this property as if one of the future development sites. And even further, it talks about priority development sites in figure 7 of your plan that you guys operate and that your predecessors developed, and it identifies this as number 11, commercial development site, prioritized. So I think everything that we're bringing you tonight is right in line with what your predecessors planned, what the City Commission and the Planning Board planned starting back in 1990 with the comprehensive plan. And I think we've gone the extra mile, met with the neighbors, made changes to the plans based on things the neighbors wanted. And I know you guys have seen situations before where the neighbors just didn't want anything to happen. Now, I'm not saying they're going to speak for themselves. I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happening here. But I sense that they just don't want our development. And I'm telling you that we're bringing something that's way better than something that could happen here. That's the key message to take away. I'm not saying that in a threatening way. I'm just telling you the way your plan reads and the way these guys came to the table and bought this piece of property and made this investment. They bought 11 other sites in Volusia County, some of which are going through a similar redevelopment, others of which are getting sort of the lipstick treatment and still running. But with that, I guess I'll leave it for any questions you have for me, for the folks I brought with me. But I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, I reserve some time to answer questions that come from anything that comes out of the audience and readdress you after they get done.
We'll be glad to do that, but before you sit down, I'd like to go around with the board, see if they have any questions of you or the applicant or Reed before we get the residents up. And I think we'll start with Suzanne, since she is our design professional on the board.
Thank you. Yes, this is in regard to the space plans inside the buildings. When I read the use of the property, it said that it would have retail tire sales and other auto accessories. And when I look inside at the space plan of the convenience store building, I don't see any designation in the space plan on where these tires would be kept and shelved and
Guys, you want to address that?
displayed.
I think what you saw was a list of retail uses that came from the code, and I don't know that you guys expect to sell tires? Yeah, no, there's no service component to this anymore, and that came from the convenience store / service station.
So there will be no tire sales, there'll be no pit crews and hydraulic horse, there'll be no tires installed and installed there.
No, like I said, that came right out of the code, and we just kind of put the code provision in there, and if you wanted to strike that, you could, because we don't intend to do that.
Okay. And I noticed there's a small building to the north side of the main building, and it says accessories. There's a storage building, and then there's an accessory building, and the accessory building is sitting kind of where the tire changing building is currently.
I've got to bring my design professional up on that one, Suzanne, I'm afraid. Mark Metzger.
Mark Metzger with the Cornerstone Consulting Engineers. The two buildings that you're talking about, one's a dumpster enclosure, so it's going to have the recyclables and the trash enclosure inside of it. The other one is a small shed. So the small shed would be like for anything that they stow to take care of the site, lawnmower, clippers, things like that.
Is that the northernmost building there, and then the trash compactor is closest to the convenience building?
The building that's closest to the convenience store is the accessory shed, and then the one furthest out from it is the dumpster enclosure.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Right?
The second one's not a building at all.
No, it's not really a building. It's just an enclosure to hide it off. And then we tied it into the same type of architecture we have for the building and for the perimeter wall to bring a level of continuity to the whole site and keep those sort of items obscured.
But there will be no tire sales and no servicing of tires?
No.
And there'll be no service repairs?
There's no auto service repairs. The closest you would get to that is air for your tires.
Okay.
You could put the quarter in the machine and they may have air fresheners and small automotive supplies sold inside. So.
Okay.
Is that all you have, Suzanne?
That's all I have on the space planning, but you're not ready for comments from the board on this yet, are you?
No, we're here for questions.
No, that's all my questions.
Okay. To my right,
I have no questions, thanks.
Teresa?
I had a question. This photo, or this rendering, is this from the southwest?
It's from the southeast. From the southeast. So if you're looking back at the site just past the canopy, the wall basically runs out just past the canopy. And the wall it looks to me like it's a perspective thing, as I asked Mark the same question, that's his rendering. The wall, if you look at the site plan, Teresa, you'll see that the wall, is it equidistant to the east with the canopy?
It's a sort of a very confusing shot. You took it right from the end.
Come on up to the microphone.
You took it right from the end of the wall as if you were standing on the edge of the detention pond and looking sort of down the wall, so it gets out of perspective. If you look at the site plan that they had up there that had the landscaping on it, I don't know if you can flip back to that or not.
It's in the package.
Yeah.
Is that in your staff report package? Yes, and you point that points to the site plan, it doesn't have a page number on it, the large oversized 11 by 17s.
Yeah.
And
got
it looks like this on the front,
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, if you go back to this second page.
I think the landscape is next.
And then the landscaping is on about the fourth page, I believe.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. I just want,
What we're looking for, Teresa, to try to answer your question is, if you look at
I just want to know who's seeing that view?
Yeah.
Is that from the neighbors?
You would have to be
Yes.
standing.
That's,
Okay.
that's
In
from
the
the
neighborhood,
neighbors to the
right.
south, which is a motel.
Okay.
It's actually the same wall, though, that's used all the way
And that
around
wall
the
is on
south.
two sides, correct?
It
It's on
absolutely, yeah, it
River
wraps all the way
and
around the
south.
west side,
Okay.
too.
And,
You can see, I want to say, before you go further, you can see that in the last page of the color renderings that I went through, the third page. That's the same
Yeah, yeah.
wall in both of those
yeah,
pictures.
right, right. And it says the wall is 8 feet. Is that the entire wall, or is that the masonry? I mean, because, and what is with the fencing? Is the fencing to allow breeze, or?
You have a 4-foot solid masonry wall, it's a split-face masonry, and there's a flagstone cap. Then you have approximately 2 foot of wrought iron fence, and the wrought iron fence is actually spanning between the pilasters that we put to break up the wall, because it's just a plain
Yeah, yeah.
wall with
Yeah, yeah.
deck.
So the columns are 6 feet high, and the rest of the fence is 6 feet high, too, but part of it is wrought iron, part of it
I
is
guess I
masonry.
thought I saw 8 foot.
8-foot setback from the street.
No, it's 10 foot.
No, it's 10
isn't it?
feet
10
setback.
feet, but it
I
says,
believe that was between the pilasters.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then we had to create a certain amount of
Okay.
opacity in
So
the
the
fence.
the total height of it is 6 feet, but the masonry is only 4.
Yes.
Okay,
Except at the columns.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah, it
Thanks.
allows for the opacity requirement for the fence. So that's how we solve that. It looks
Okay.
more there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you.
Anything else, Teresa? Tim?
Size of the existing structure now.
Square footage on the existing structure. Instead of him coming up, I'm just going to say what he's saying, 1,900 square feet total,
Okay, and then, the new building would be just under 2,500 square feet.
24 something.
2455.
Right.
Why, I mean, I drove past it, I drove all around the block and everything, then I drove down to Daytona Beach Shores where there's another Sunoco that's being redone down there.
Right.
And with conversations and stuff like that, I see that one, they had kind of the same issues down there, and they ended up working within the existing footprint of the property. Why the opposition to doing that?
I don't think they had any more room down there. A better example is up near where we live, on corner of Rockefeller and A1A. They had to acquire a bigger piece of property to do a more modern facility there. Butts right up a residential area along, Rockefeller and the next street to the south. Same situation. We put up buffering and
That's a little different situation
Clear
there, because
interface.
that's more multifamily housing to where,
no, I'm talking about single family, all single family.
well, yeah, no, but, well, that,
In this-
the
in
old
thi-
Eleanor, the
in
old
this-
Eleanor Village area, is
Let me-
that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
right?
let me get you oriented on this one though, Tim. If you look at this, if you look at the second page of the color renderings that I gave you, the bottom left-hand slide, there's 4 slides on that second page. Look at the left-hand, just the very left-hand corner of the canopy. See that multi-story building?
Yeah, there's that one timeshare thing right there.
That abuts most of our property. So compared to the Rockefeller situation, which is all single-family, this is multifamily. It's just the opposite of what you said. We abut multifamily for the most part here. In the Rockefeller situation, which was just approved by Orman last week, it's all single-family. Very common. I mean, it's not the first time I said this. When I appeared in front of you guys with the concept, A1A has single multifamily abutting the commercial for the whole county. I mean, this is a very common thing. I deal with it almost weekly. And how do you deal with it? You deal with it by being sensitive to the interface and putting buffers in, especially where something's already designated for commercial. It's where it's supposed to go.
Matt? Dino?
I have one question on drawing number 2, right behind that Sunoco symbol. I guess, does code require a 15-foot setback from the property line? And that's why you have it.
Which line are you on? Which property line?
The second
They're different.
page.
The property line, the setbacks are different from different property lines?
Side yard?
I'm talking about, yeah, the side setback,
On the south side?
on the south, on the, no, on the west side.
Required setback 20 there, Reed? I know we have a lot more. I mean, the setback there is substantially more than what's required.
Okay, because in the plan, it says 15-foot building setback line, and then it has dotted right behind the building.
All right, Peter, you're going to have to come up and earn your keep on this one, because I can't read this plan that you gave me. It's too small for my eyes. See how you do. Bring your magnifying glass. Well, I don't have a full-size plan, so.
Peter Ma, England, Timms and Miller, 14775 Old St. Augustine Road, Jacksonville, Florida. Yes, what you see in that dash line is I believe is a 15-foot setback from Ruger. And I believe our main building is well off of that, the main retail convenience.
No,
Well, the wall is 10 feet back, so it's way back further.
Yeah, it's way back further.
Yeah, we have 25 feet from the main building to the right-of-way line of Ruger.
Okay, the question I'm kind of like thinking out loud with is the potential here that we might be able to give the neighborhood a little bit more of a buffer by moving the wall a little bit towards your building?
Well, let me just try that. You can look at the measurements and give me answers
I
on
know
that.
you
but-
meet all the
but-
requirements, but I'm just trying
Yeah,
to...
Dino, what I was trying to get to
soften the-
is that we kind of put the wall in the middle and put landscape on either side of it, thinking that was the best place from both from an aesthetic standpoint and a buffering standpoint. I mean, we're flexible about that. We want to move it further out, then just means there's less landscaping on the neighborhood side of it.
No, I'm saying to move it...
Further
to where
towards
you
the
have
building?
more landscaping on the neighborhood side.
Yeah.
And that way they have a little bit more of a buffer between...
See,
Your
this is
building
10
and
feet
that.
and that's 15, that doesn't,
It would actually
I
allow
see.
for more green space if you're, for this picture right here.
could you move the wall further back? I think it appears based on this, but you can tell me as an expert.
Because that way you'll still have your development exactly the way you want, and you might be able to find some kind of medium with the neighborhood to where everybody's happy.
That could be an option.
Would you have trouble with that if you were to move the wall back farther towards the building? Wouldn't you have some difficulties there with your dumpster enclosure? It wouldn't be, I mean, if you moved it back, you would be, you're kind of playing to, that's your limit.
Yeah, you can go to that limit and almost extend the wall, because that is the same wall, I think, right? The same material on the dumpster?
Right.
You could incorporate it into the...
Yeah, you can just incorporate it into the wall.
Well, how high is the dumpster enclosure got to be? Didn't that have to be, I haven't looked at the
High enough to
plan.
shield the dumpster.
But doesn't have to be, I think, 8 feet?
Yeah, I think it's taller than that.
Yeah.
Is that at least 8 feet? No?
So we were just talking about if we slid the fence back, we could actually bring it in and tie it into the back wall of the dumpster enclosure, so the dumpster enclosure would become the
The question is,
fence.
how tall is that wall in the dumpster?
It's about 6.5 feet tall. So it's enough to conceal the dumpsters. But we could slide that back in if that's what, it's a possibility.
Storage building's 8 feet, right?
The storage building is 8 foot tall, and then there's a roof on top of it, a peak roof on top of it, which goes to another 4.5 feet.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to tie into that, though, would you? Or Peter, it's a minute. I'm just thinking through your whole suggestion.
I mean, I guess you can tie into, it'll look kind of funny, but.
Not to interject in it, but if you're actually going to end up with a very small alleyway back there and there's no use for it, I say bring the wall in and tie it into the back of the building, make the back of the building serve as the wall, and then landscape out in that area. You're maximizing your green area out there. You're eliminating a wall, actually, and you're eliminating an area where people you don't want to congregate could congregate and not be seen.
The one place, Dan, where you probably couldn't do that is as you get over towards the retention area.
Yeah, exactly. You jog it back out and such.
I mean, from their standpoint, I think it's
Yeah.
should be acceptable.
Yeah, I would think.
They're building less wall, there's more green.
It's a win-win all the way on
It's not
that.
as decorative, I mean, the walls intend to be a decorative, continuous
Yeah.
look, but
But you're almost going to have 30, 40 feet in there that's green area, and
you're going to get more green area that's visible
Yeah.
green. At the end of the day, this is going to be a wall that you're not going to see. You're not going to see the building or the wall.
yeah.
Eventually,
Well,
as things grow.
do you know anything else?
Yeah, that's the only thing I was thinking.
Okay. Carrie? Randy? Okay. Rob, before you guys step down, or any quick comments before we
No, I
invite
just,
public comment?
I just want to make sure I stay right here so I can answer questions and respond to any comments that come up. I'm sure there'll be several.
Have a seat right there, and we'll move on.
Thanks.
I have a question. When do we get to make our comments? After the public comments? Yes. I have comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, with respect to the public, do we have any public that is here in support of the project? Okay, just always have John Nichols. All right, John, why don't you get up?
Again, you don't have, John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. You don't have one in the middle. But basically, I'll give you a little history. I went back in my documents. There were 11 meetings on the creation of the CRA South Atlantic. Peter Oludo tried to create an entirety from Silver Beach to International. A lot of opposition. Sheila McKay formed a South Atlantic Neighborhood Association. A guy named Peter came in and said, the bulldozers are going to come in and all the houses go. So they ended up with this real narrow strip along A1A and a little corner right there to develop. What the neighbors did not want, and there were several things, if you ever look at the list, it's like 20 things long. They did not want bars, they didn't want drive-ins like McDonald's and Burger Kings. They didn't want convenience stores like we have on Main Street. Main Street has like 10 7-Elevens, Kangaroo, and whatnot. They did not want that. This is not what they did not want. This is a gas station. If you've gone into, like next to my house, the Kangaroo, there are always homeless people sitting there all day long. They come in, they use the restroom, they get free sodas. It's really not a nice place, and these people don't want the same thing, trust me. I don't think this is going to be the same thing. If you look at it, the location, all they're doing is there's a house there that's going to go down, and then there's going to be a green space. That's all that's going to happen to the neighborhood. All the rest of it had always been grandfathered in. When I moved here in 1982, there was a convenience store inside that building. Most gas stations at that time were converting over and their bays were going into convenience stores. They've always sold things from inside that. The neighbors were afraid, and I talked to one of the ladies that live on Ruger, and her concern was the driveway from Ruger going in. I never saw a diagram with the driveway from Ruger. Secondly, the drainage ditch that I saw was on Ruger. She said, oh, no, the building comes back all the way to Ruger and sits on Ruger. The things that she was worried about are not in this, all right? Everything that she was worried about has been solved. Everything that the South Atlantic Neighborhood Association worried about does not fit this. It's not the convenience store that they were worried about. It's not the bars, it's not the 7-Elevens, it's not the Kangaroos, it's not the McDonald's. So this is a new animal. It's something that has always been there. It's just a reconfiguration. It's better than I thought it was going to be. If I'm hearing them correctly, that wall is going to be a textured wall, not just a simple cinder block, which is ugly as sin, and we get that all over the place. This will almost look as nice as any of the other neighborhoods, and I've never seen a Sunoco in Fort Myers, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, some of the nicer places, Palm Beach. I would like this to be of that quality because this neighborhood is our best neighborhood on the beach side. It has the finest houses in continuous location. You have a few nice ones along the river, but across from them are not so nice. This whole area is a very, very nice area. I'm asking Sunoco to go a little bit overboard. If you're going to do the caliper on the oak trees, 6 caliper minimum. 4 is just too tiny. You need a 6. Secondly, no magnolias. You know how I love trees. Magnolia trees, if you go to the Wells Fargo on Seabreeze, they've been there 12 years, and they've gained 6 inches in 12 years. These neighbors don't deserve that. They need as full a canopy of trees as possible. And lastly, the palm trees, quality ones. Date palms, something that cost money, not these simple little $25 trees. It's a nice neighborhood, treated as a nice neighborhood, and they both win. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, with respect to the residents that are in opposition, are y'all kind of organized? Does everybody want to speak? Do you want to have one speaker we'll give more time to? Then there's a few odd people we'll be glad to give you some time to, or do y'all just want to get up and get your 3 minutes?
Do you mind if I organize the troops here?
Sure.
Would you like to go first, and if there's something you'd like to add, then you can add, and if I've said it, does that make you guys feel comfortable? Yes. Okay, how does that sound?
You're going to be a primary spokesman, and we'll give you maybe 10 minutes or so? How's that sound? Is that enough?
That sounds fine, is that good?
Okay. And if somebody really needs to say something, we won't stop them.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing that I'm concerned about is the parameters as far as being able to sort of have our moment, just as Sunoco and Mr. Merrill had theirs. I'm uncomfortable with Mr. Merrill being able to interrupt our speakers. I am comfortable, obviously he has time at the end, but I'm not sure that it's fair for him to be able to interrupt us while we have our moment.
If you have a question for him, he'll be there to answer it. Otherwise, you get to proceed unless one of us has a question for you, as some of us did for him.
How about between the speakers, our neighborhood speakers? Is he going to be able to interrupt each of us?
No.
Okay, I'm just
And,
checking. Thank you.
Name and address, please.
Thank you very much. Want to know the rules. My name is Elizabeth Barnes, and I live at 1229 Ruger Place. So first, thank you. I, like you guys, do my civic duty here in the town, so I want to say it is late on a Monday. I appreciate you being here. So, like I said, I live in a beautiful historic home with my husband and my 2 boys at 1229 Ruger, and we have spent the last 10 years together improving our property, just like all of our neighbors, some of whom are second-generation property owners in our area. We are all investors, right, in this city, and our collective investment in Bostwick Park neighborhood has made it a stable, beautiful, and desirable place to live. I'm here today as a representative of my own investment, as well as the other Daytona Beach investors, residential and commercial, in the Bostwick Park and Silver Beach office transitional corridor. I have a petition with about 150 signatures representing folks who are concerned about commercial encroachment west from A1A into beachside neighborhoods. And I have that document. That is not something that I was going to make copies of in the 5 minutes before the meeting, but I'll go ahead and have that. And next time I know that I need to make copies for everybody. Rookie mistake.
That's okay.
You don't get one, I'm sorry. I really don't have one. I don't have one for you. Sorry.
We'll share, Rob.
I knew it. Sunoco's before you today because they would like an exception to the rules or to change the rules, the zoning that exists in the area. So the existing rules, not the future rules, the rules that are here right now, the real people that live on these properties. The question that I would like you to consider is this. Does allowing Sunoco the right for spot zoning to expand the gas station and convenience store onto a residential street add value to the surrounding property? To me, this is the central question. For my neighbors and for me, the answer is a pretty unequivocal no. Zoning is fencing. I'll read from our city's land development code. So this is also from the land development code. The residential districts are intended to provide for orderly and compatible development of residential areas and to protect residential neighborhoods from commercial encroachment. Various single-family and multifamily districts are established to ensure compatibility within the districts and maintain and protect property values. So I understand that there is a lot of information being talked about when it comes to T3 and T4 and Mr. T and all kinds of stuff that is it's complicated, and I think that just like all law, it's up for interpretation. We are here to interpret it and come up with the best use, right, and the most consistent use. Zoning creates a barrier so that property owners in a city can live with each other as harmoniously as possible, and this is especially true when intense commercial uses abut less intense residential uses. These zoning interactions require setbacks, which are erased in a planned commercial development. On the beach side, maintaining residential zoning on the west side of A1A and thus preventing commercial encroachment into historic neighborhoods is an essential component of stable, profitable, and desirable residential investment. The proposed Sunoco expansion and planned commercial development completely ignores the social aesthetic of my street or any neighborhood street by reorienting all three properties into one huge, out-of-scale property that is oriented towards A1A. Is the rear end of a convenience store, which is where they put the dumpsters, appropriate next to a row of well-tended front yards, painted facades, front porches, and front doors?
Excuse me, John.
John, you're...
When you're done, I'll keep going. I mean, are you going to keep talking? Okay.
John's quiet now.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I apologize. I'm a little nervous.
That's okay.
The way neighborhoods and commercial developers are arranged, the way that neighborhoods and commercial developments are arranged, the way that the plats are designed, the way they work together in a neighborhood, right? It matters. It's the same reason why people don't put pools or sheds in their front yards, right? Would you want to live on a street with a gas station on it? If this Sunoco expansion is approved, Ruger Place will become the corner of Bostwick Park that high-end residential and commercial investors will avoid. Ruger Place will be the one where people will rent property, not own it. It's the one investors will avoid because of the light and the noise. It's the one the cops will get to know. Well, I know. I used to see drug dealers and prostitutes on my street daily. This is 10 years ago. Things are better now. Code enforcement has worked. People own all of the property on my street and in my neighborhood. There might be one or two rentals, but it's owner-occupied properties. It really is a beautiful neighborhood. My neighborhood is more beautiful now than it was 10 years ago when I moved here, and it's because of the collective investment of residential investors. I'm asking that you don't ignore the hard work that they've done increasing the tax value in our city. I don't have any pictures, I don't have any plans right from them, and I wish that I had pictures of my neighborhood to show you. It's a beautiful neighborhood, and sadly, the pictures that Sunoco has brought and Mr. Merrill have brought only show the plan. They don't actually show what that planned development looks like with the houses that are beside it and around it. Right. I mean, there you go. There's some pictures, I think. What is that?
I have a picture up here, just a couple pictures that show you down the road looking towards Silver Beach, if that helps you, Liz.
No, that's nice. Yes, that's a nice picture. So that's looking, right, looking
That's
north.
looking north, and then if you go up a little further, this is
There you
looking over to the west.
So these are the folks up on the dune, up on that hill.
Right.
They're probably, 12 or 15 feet up on a dune.
Yeah, and then another picture for you there.
And that's the existing corner, right? There used to be a historic house there they took down, right? And
So
it's a timeshare.
that's looking the other way for you. Okay?
Thank you, Reed.
You're welcome.
Okay. Real estate is big business on the beach side, and protecting neighborhoods from commercial encroachment isn't a moral argument. It's an economic one. Sunoco might add taxable value to their property with this planned commercial development, but they will do so while detracting from the taxable values of their neighbors. The Land Development Code, the CRA guidelines, the visioning plan from 2008, and Bostwick Park's own neighborhood visioning statement and the City Commission have said that the beachside neighborhoods are valuable as a tax base and worth protecting, and that a fundamental way to protect them is to prohibit the rezoning of residential property west of A1A for commercial use. Keep intense commercial uses on A1A and less intense single-family neighborhoods behind them, not beside them. And I think this is a key aspect of the argument, that I see the plan, and it's a beautiful plan on paper, right? But if you look at the zoning now, or you look at not even the zoning, but I think that the way that the plats are designed is that A1A gas station is an A1A gas station. And that if you move that property back, that building, you'll see, even 10 feet from the sidewalk, that it's on Ruger Place, and it's on Ruger Place like this. Right? And I need a haircut. So that everybody else gets to see the front of their homes. And again, it's the part of the social aesthetic of a neighborhood that it doesn't matter how many trees are there, right? It doesn't matter how tall the fence is. And in fact, I don't even know if we would be allowed to put a fence on the front of our property the way that they're putting a fence on the behind theirs. And I understand the reason why, but it's because it's not compatible with the neighborhood. That's why they need a fence. That's why they need all of this stuff that is nice, but it's because it's incompatible, right? I am here and my neighbors are here to protect our investments. And Sunoco is before you because they need a variance, permission to change the rules. And the neighborhood is saying no. Instead, we're asking you to say yes to all of our investments, because like I said, we're all investors. It's not resident versus commercial. We've all invested. We work here, we live here, we own businesses here. And we're asking you to protect Sunoco's right to their commercial interests on A1A and our right to have valuable beachside homes in a historic residential neighborhood right behind them, not beside them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Elizabeth Barnes? Any questions? Okay.
Well, I have one.
Okay, Dino?
What are your thoughts of, let's say, if there was a positive motion on this project, what were your thoughts of having more green space, towards your neighborhood area?
It's a trick question, isn't it? I think.
By the way, I drove your neighborhood.
Good,
It's beautiful.
I'm glad you did.
Okay.
It is. Thank you. I'll give two answers. Obviously, green space is always better, right? My cousin lives in Decatur, and one of the things she talks about is that there's a 40% lot coverage, and that what's really important about those residential areas is that you can't cover your whole lot, right? Because green space matters. And so the simple argument is, yes, green space matters. But I think, too, that this precedent-setting decision of allowing this property to move west all the way on that island of land, because you know what I'm talking about visually, is that, we're one of those neighborhoods that has those streets that runs parallel to A1A. We're not just perpendicular streets. And so that narrow area of land, that narrow island of land, is especially at risk for commercial encroachment. And it's especially... it impacts the neighborhood in an especially big way, because then all of those houses that faced east, right, on Ruger Place, they're really impacted by the view, and obviously the ones that are right beside are going to be impacted. So my most comfortable answer is that no, the PCD should be a no, because that gas station should stay on A1A, because of the intensity of that use, because of the kind of use. And frankly, I think... Mr. Kostadakis, and forgive me for mispronouncing your last name, the Sunoco in the Shores is a really interesting example of a very similar kind of project where there is, a parallel street running to A1A, and then on the west side of that property there's a house, and on the east side of that property on A1A there's a gas station. It looks like the same kind of gas station in half the amount of space, and I wonder that if Shell hadn't acquired these properties 10 years ago and Sunoco hadn't bought them, if they would have just put the gas station in the existing footprint. And I would like to see them try that out. I really think if they've done it in the short, and I don't know, it's not necessarily fair for me to tell them to come up with that right now, but it looks like a very similar project with very similar dimensions. And that seems to me the best way of dealing with this commercial encroachment issue, because it's that precedent-setting issue, I think, of commercial encroachment into beachside areas that's really important. And, I have a neighbor who's going to address that about the city commission decisions that have protected neighborhoods against encroachment, and this speaks directly to that issue. I don't know if that helps. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Do we have any of the other residents who need to speak? Please come forward then. Name and address.
My name is Glenn Jenkins.
At the podium, please. We'll get it on the record then.
All right. My name is Glenn Jenkins. My address is 300 Bostwick Avenue. Been there since 1980. I second and third everything Liz said about our neighborhood. It is a great place, as you're aware of. And I like the idea that you're going to improve that gas station. It has been kind of an eyesore and a wasted space for a long time. I was happy to hear that a company with a lot of money was going to take care of it and build it up. And then I found out that they needed to make it bigger and bigger. My point is that in the comprehensive plans that they're mentioning, made in 1990 and maybe again revised in 2003, in those years, bigger and better and build them and they will come, build it and they will come, had some meaning. And that was because people were coming. And since that time, when those plans were made, people haven't been coming. I don't see a need for a big, big gas station. Just like we don't need big dueling drugstores, across the street from each other. We don't need a big, big gas station. The 7-Eleven, which is right down the street about north of there, about 200 yards, is almost never over busy. They only have 4 gas pumps and a very narrow space, and they fill the needs of our community very well. And it would just be nice to have another small venue that was also nice, like the 7-Eleven, and I wish they would do that instead. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Irie.
Jim?
Jim O'Shaughnessy, 1210 Gamble Place. Gamble Place is 2 blocks west of Ruger. So I'm in that neighborhood, and I certainly share the pride that Liz passed on to you people, and I want to thank you all for serving. I think the key that has been mentioned, and Reed, would it be possible to put the site plan back up? Is that an inconvenience? What has not been mentioned much, and Liz did a good job of it, is, I think, first of all, it's great to have professionals coming to our town and investing in our town. We need it. I've been involved in the tourism industry and still am tangentially, I'm still with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for years, and I think I understand the importance of A1A to our community and to our tourism industry. And I think having a gas station of that quality would be terrific. I think A1A is an appropriate place for a gas station. Having a convenience store on A1A, I think, is important. We need services for our residents and for our tourists. I think that's great. What isn't mentioned, hasn't been mentioned enough, is the encroachment on Ruger Place. That is what I think is inappropriate and just plain wrong. Where is that convenience store? You're saying A1A, and yes, it faces A1A, but what street is it on? It's on Ruger Place. You put a fence up. It's still on Ruger Place. That's an encroachment into a residential area. And I would hope that you would not approve this plan because of that encroachment. If they want to put a gas station and a convenience store on A1A, I think that's great. But let's not say it's on A1A when, in fact, we've got a building on Ruger Place with a fence. It's an encroachment into our community. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Jim.
Questions?
Any questions for Jim?
I have a question.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do we have any kind of...
Microphone, please.
Do we have any kind of transparent overlay that shows the new building on top of the existing building? Did I miss that?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's in here.
I can bring
Can
one
you
of those
put that up on the screen?
Sure. That's not it. Oh, come on.
No, that's not it. That's the canopy. And that's the new building.
I'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, there's one that shows the...
Yeah, that's a great one.
that.
Look at
Thank
that.
you.
Where is that convenience store? I'll answer that, thank you. It is west of the gas station. It is not north or south, a parallel with A1A. It is west of it, on Ruger Place. That's encroachment, and that's the concern that I have. I certainly don't want to speak for anyone else. And I think it sets a very bad precedent. It may be necessary for them to do it this way. I can't help but believe that there's not a way to maybe to compromise a little to have both of those facilities, if they want both of them, on A1A where they properly should be.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Any other residents? Okay, please. Either way, go ahead, Dan. All right, okay.
Dan Harshaw, 115 Lenox Avenue, and I also own a property at 504 Bostwick Avenue. One thing that I would like to state, and maybe this board's not aware of it, and maybe the city staff or something that happened in the prior time when we were creating the new and future land map, was in 1997, the City Commission and the Planning Board unanimously repealed any type of encroachment moving west into R1, R2, any special district. So anything now, before this new map was drawn by oversight, nothing was allowed to move west. So I don't know if you guys have a copy of this, but it was from the July 16th, 1997 minutes where unanimously by the Planning Board, the City Commission, the Mayor Asher, they all approved that no commercial development is allowed to move west. You can only move north and south. And for some reason, this oversight happened during the Land Development Code. We just brought that forth with Ocean Dunes neighborhood when the Holiday Inn was trying to encroach by moving into Ocean Dunes. City staff politely said, "You are correct. We will take your section out." Well, I'd like to know why they're not taking the section out for Bostwick Park. It should be done for everybody and everybody fairly. The rule is written right here. It is a city ordinance. You cannot move west, and that's what they're doing. Thank you so much.
Dan,
Here's
can
it
you show
right
me
here.
what you're looking at?
Carrie, would this be a movement into R1, or would this be a movement into RP zoning?
Well, I'm not sure, is that a comp plan amendment there? Is that for the neighborhood C? I'm trying to figure out if,
Pass this around to Carrie, please. 'Cause I'm-
And city staff politely corrected it, and for Ocean Dunes, it was 2 months ago, they unanimously voted to basically take us out from Wisteria to Ocean Dunes Road and say, "You're correct, you cannot go west." So Bostwick Park should take the same benefit, and so for anybody else along A1A. The commercial people know what they bought, you can't encroach.
Thank you.
I'll let you interpret
Carrie, what are we looking at there?
it's an ordinance amending Article 9, Section 2 and 4. But when I go to Article 9 now, I don't see this. So without pulling the legislative history, I'm not sure what happened to this. It says, repealing provisions that allowed extension of a tourist district into any R1 or R2 as a special use.
Okay, so we're not in an R1 or an R2, and we're not doing a special use.
The house they just bulldozed in R1.
No, it's RP. No, it's RP.
Peter Niles' old house is
It's RP, it's different zoning.
Then why did they not say we're going into Ocean Dunes? I know it's R1 in Ocean Dunes, but isn't this house, the one that was just bulldozed in foreclosure, was a single-family home?
It was in the RP zoning, not R1 or R2, which, without having everything in front of me, it's hard to say, but that is RP, which is different from R1 and R2.
Yeah, at first blush, we'll look at it, but it doesn't look like it's applicable.
Well, and also-
Well,
another thing is, too, is I guess another question I have for you, too, is I do believe that when they created the CRAs, their intentions were written 20 years ago that there will be no convenience stores in CRAs. So why are we changing a CRA plan again to allow a convenience store? Gas stations today are convenience stores. They don't make money in gas. They make money off of cigarettes and beer, and that's where they make their money. So we're not talking a gas station, we're talking convenience store. So I think you all need to look into that before you make a decision, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you read it into the record, but so the record reflects it's ordinance 97-358 that's being referred to.
And Carrie, it's your understanding that whatever that ordinance was has now been enacted into the comprehensive plan or the land development regulations, is that fair?
Right, what I see in Article 9, I don't see any provision like that. I know that there's a provision in Neighborhood C about the Silver Beach Avenue, which says, Silver Beach Avenue shall be preserved as an office transitional district containing professional offices and multifamily use. No commercial retail zoning will be extended into this area. But as Reed pointed out, we're not exactly on Silver Beach once you get back to that RP parcel. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Did that finish? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stephen Van Arnhem, and I live at 1230 Ruger Place. We've had that house in our family since 1946. It was built in 1919. There's a couple of problems. I'm not against them being able to develop their property. What I am against is the mass of it, and you all need to come down there and not get hasty about this. and make a decision that might end up in court. Because when you go down there and look at the scope of this, it looks pretty on these renderings. It's beautiful. I'm impressed. But the fact is, you're going to have this huge building sticking up around all these little trees they're going to put around this pond that they're digging or whatever. But here's the thing. There's a problem with the lighting. Nobody's even brought that up. What's happening with the lighting? Am I second floor of my house, am I going to be looking right at a searchlight, or a street light, or this massive canopy over the pumps? And how is that lighting going to affect our neighborhood? I don't see stopping this, but I think it should be brought into scale that's appropriate for this area. You have a 7-Eleven. I could stand on their property and throw a baseball and hit 7-Eleven with it. There's a 7-Eleven the other way, 2 blocks down. It doesn't sell gas, but it's it's a convenience store. Another problem that I see besides the lighting, you're talking about a wrought iron fence on the ocean.
It's aluminum, actually.
That's gone. That'll be gone in 6 months. I mean, it'll rust away. It needs to be extruded aluminum. They need to be their feet held to the fire about things like this exit they're saying that they're going to put onto Silver Beach. There's a stoplight right there. Right now, yesterday, when I left my house and I came out to turn right on Silver Beach to go up to Atlantic, a lady pulled out of the station and almost ran over a guy parked at the light because she was making a left turn against 2 lanes of traffic. Now, why would you want that there on Silver Beach? Why would you exit traffic? The only person that can get into that place is turning right on Silver Beach. When you come up on Silver Beach, Atlantic's here, here's their property, you're going to turn into their property. That's fine. But how about when I'm sitting there waiting on a light and somebody comes across 2 lanes of traffic to make a left, which this lady did yesterday?
I did it today.
Yeah, so it's illegal, by the way. You're not supposed to be able to turn left on Silver Beach.
Well, I think you'll find their site plan actually shows that being moved further westward.
Even worse.
It will not be, well, I don't think it'll be worse.
It can't be too far westward because there's only so much footage there.
Understood.
And I think that I implore you all not to make a decision tonight. This needs to be looked into a little bit more. And I think that things need to be addressed like lighting and this buffer zone and the use of this lot. I mean, their property is 18 inches away from the gentleman's house next door. Their property, their building is a little bit farther north, yes, but all the other stuff, this wall that they're going to put in to hold their retention, because they have to retain their own water, is going to be 18 inches from this man's house.
I don't believe so.
Well, you need to come down there and look, and let's all go down and look at it and see, and things like the lighting. And when you stand there and look around, you start to realize, go look at the building in Daytona Beach Shores that the gentleman was talking about. Look at that monster, and this one's going to be bigger than that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
but you need to hold their feet to the fire about things, at least the way they build this place, because so far there's several things that aren't right.
Rob, could you address the lighting issue?
Yeah, I'll address everything.
I have one question for him, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, for the gentleman?
Yes.
Oh, sir, we have a question for you, please.
Mr. Van Arner, just one quick question for you. So, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'd rather ask. Would you prefer that the exit be on Ruger instead of on Silver Beach?
I don't see how that could be possible in their plan. I'm just saying it's not a safe way to exit. If they can have where they can come entrance only off of Silver Beach, I can see that working. But to be able to exit that station and turn left to go west onto Silver Beach is a nightmare. And I don't care if you move it farther down, it's even worse, because now the entrance, the white stripe is here, and the entrance is east of it. So people see that, and they don't have any sign that says, because the police say you can't turn left on that. I've asked them. They say that's not legal. You're not supposed to be able to turn left across 2 lanes like that without some sort of a signal or something. So it's a morass as far as, and he's right about it, the way they put the light up and all that, it's kind of messed up. They got a huge column there and all, but still, that entrance is not going to work. I mean, it's going to be a problem. It's a problem now. It's just that they don't have anybody there There's not enough flow of traffic into that place to really be a problem. But when they open this monster up, that's going to be a problem because there is going to be traffic. And they're saying, oh, well, we'll put Ruger one way, or we'll close Ruger down. Well, that doesn't stop the lighting. That doesn't stop the people. And if you don't think that they get bad people at their stations, go over to Mason Avenue and look at that one there. I get gas there all the time. And there's a crew in there that if they're in my neighborhood, they're going to get in trouble quick. It's like, we've had that problem when the C-Dip was there. We had more prostitution, more drug activity, more thieves, you name it. When they closed that place down, there was 8 stolen cars in the neighborhood. So, I mean, by adding more of this mass of just open space that people can hang out at, it just doesn't make sense. I think it should be scaled down to be reasonable for the area. I'm not against the unit there. I'm not against development. I'm against unreasonable development. I'm against, go down and look at the Salty Dog Surf Shop and see if you like that wall that's right down that they put up on the street.
So just for clarification, though, your response was, if they could redesign it so that that entrance and exit would be on Ruger, you would be in support of that?
No, of course not.
So you don't want
It's
it on
bad enough
Ruger?
now that it's on.
I'm just trying to understand if we, what we're looking at here, right? So you don't want it on Ruger. The next option is where they have it, and I get what you're saying about it being really close to that solid white stop bar at the light.
Well, it has to be regulated to be one way. They can't come out of there unless
Right,
you're
they can only go right.
turning right.
So in
And
essence-
you'd still be turning right into traffic.
It would
We just
be-
need a bigger entrance on Atlantic and kill the one on Silver Beach if that's what they want to do.
I think it'd be similar to the one that's on Big Tree, because if you come out of Big Tree on the side, you cannot turn left, you only can turn right.
Right.
And that would facilitate that, yeah, so, I mean, I
It just- it
I
needs to
understand.
be looked at
I
more,
didn't get
excuse
that he
me.
was asking to put it on Ruger.
No, I didn't
I
get
know
that
what you're
either, but I'm just trying to figure out, well,
but I think
Believe
what
me,
you're saying
I
is-
don't want anything on Ruger. I don't even want this fence on Ruger. I think the fence should be taken away, and they should do nothing but foliage.
right.
You know, make it an open space. I mean, that wall is not going to be maintained. They're talking about a wrought iron fence on a wall in a high salt area. Lighting, you name it. It's just too big.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I have one more question.
Oh, sorry, sir. One more, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Now, you live on Bostwick, you said?
No, I live on Ruger Place. I am,
How did the Phantom Fireworks lighting affect your place?
it doesn't affect me personally. It doesn't, it affects Elizabeth because it's right in front of her.
Okay.
And they have a nice wall too. You should see it.
Okay, now, when they, okay, well, I guess now my question, do they tone down the lighting there, or what happened with that?
Holly can speak to that as well.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Follow up, I will.
Their flag, they've got more light on their flag than most street lights that you guys have.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Well, okay.
I think you're safe.
Yeah, thank you. We only draw you back 3 times. Ma'am, did you want to?
Where you gonna go, or you want another river first? Okay. I've lost my voice. Some people will be very mad about that. Hi, I'm Holly Beckwith. I live at 1223 Ruger Place, which is next to the greenhouse. John's not feeling well, and he laughed when I said, John, they said your house is to be residential. He goes, what? I said, I don't know, John, do you want to come over here? He said, I don't feel really well. And I said, well, they just said they called your house a single-family home. He goes, it's not. And I said, well, I'm here, so I'm going to be able to speak. And if you wanted to see a picture of what it looks like, because I do live on the yellow house, my house, which is the Manila house next to the greenhouse. We don't have a commissioner. We don't have a, what do they call the South Atlantic redevelopment thing? Nobody really cares. I mean, bless Liz for trying. She's worth a great thing. I love her word encroachment. I walk my pug there, and I'm able to walk around that property. I'm able to walk on the 10-foot strip on the north side of John's house that supposedly, correct me if I'm wrong, please, gentlemen, are you guys going to give that driveway to John? Because now I can walk up and down this side of the 10-foot buffer between the greenhouse and the beginning of their development, if you want to pull up pictures or whatever you got to do. Notice my Chesapeake Bay Bridge shirt? It's just like this bridge here. But that's where, yeah, the lighting is horrible from Phantom Fireworks. They've not done a thing. They put up shields for other people, but not for me. No, they've got so many lights on there, it looks like a car lot. It's ridiculous. I've asked, the owner came all the way down here from Ohio to put her finger in my face, and you've got a ticking what next to our homes? We're on natural gas. And here, we want to put a gas station within 50 yards of a how many square foot building full of explosives? The whole block's on natural gas. How dangerous. I mean, how much sleep do I have to lose? I mean, and to be honest with you, I think we can do better here. I think it's really cool that we have people here from all the way up north in Pennsylvania, but has anybody sat here in August and thought about that piece of property? There is a great deal of shade there by this one huge portocarpus tree.
It's huge.
And it's huge, it's gorgeous, and I think at the right time of summer, that thing makes the best amount of shade. But nobody's really welcome back there because, like Liz said, what are we looking at? We're looking at the back side of a building that shouldn't cross this line. And I pulled up a picture for you now. But that's where we have a gentleman, the South Atlantic Redevelopment, whatever it is, north of Silver Beach. I've not felt invited. I've not felt welcome in my own town. House I live in was my grandmother's. She bought it in '54. My father bought it back, and now I own it. I'm trying to raise a young lady in this town. And you can see in her room from this parking lot, the fence isn't big enough. It's not sufficient. We've had 2 efforts here. That's it. Somebody counting meetings, 11 meetings, they said. Sunoco, I don't like going to Sunoco's. Their help has attitudes. Their counters are huge. There's just potential for arguments. And it's just not exactly what our community, our particular little neighborhood needs. It needs to be the gas station on that side of the road where it is. It's simple. Somebody get a paintbrush. I'll help. I will help. I mean, it really needs to be remodeled. The roof is new. It's not really ready to be destroyed. And we have somebody bringing paperwork for you to flip through, something 2003, 1990. I have the abstract land title for the entire area, the original. And what it does say is that there is to be no bars in our particular, between some oak tree and another one. I'll get it. I'll make a copy. I'll give it to Liz. Been trying to for years. Since, what was this thing we made up the other year of a vision? I missed the one meeting at Liz's house because I was out of the state for work. People have to do that. And they want to come home, and they want to know their house is there, and they want to know their house isn't blown up, to be honest with you. And it just gets worse. The size, the brightness, the intensity. And here we go again, sir. At the end of the day, we're talking about a 24-hour store. 24 hours a day. There's already graffiti 3 blocks south of us. And all of this stuff from what my father, born at 42 Peninsula, right? There's not supposed to be this kind of havoc. And it's south of Silver Beach. That's why the Lido's gone. You know, the CDIP has its own problems if anybody's keeping track of how many times we hear ambulances across the street, much to mention cars driving into fireworks stores. It gets very scary. And I would please beg, listen to us, because we'd like to have a picnic and some ice cream in August in a shade under a great big old gorgeous tree. But if they're not thinking with the community, I don't know, how hot does it get in Pennsylvania in August? It gets almost 100 here. And not one person has ever, and I've lived here my whole entire life. I'm native, born and raised. Nobody's ever considered us, the people who live here, the people that go to that beach, the people, how hot and thirsty and dirty they are when they come off that beach. You're going to offer them beer and gasoline? We need ice cream and ice water and a place for my daughter to have a lemonade stand. You know, I mean, I understand they have a corporate being that is them. But we have a very small community. I have worked all over this great nation. This is a very small town. I understand we're internationally known, but we need to consider how things are done in other places. There's other gas stations up north. They have seating arrangements out front.
You're running out of time, ma'am.
I know.
Okay.
They have seating arrangements out front, and it's comfortable for everybody. With this encroachment into the neighborhood, across Ruger, it's just not what we need. What we need there is healthy grass so we can walk our dogs. We've got one neighbor here that walks his dog all over the place, and poor thing needs a break in the grass. That whole area is meant to be residential. I'll get the land deed and I'll find it, but it's not to be a 24-hour bar, and that's what it is. If they're selling alcohol past dark, it's a bar.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Or does anybody
Any
have questions for me? Because I know the house that was just torn down
No
is the
questions.
Rehnquist house.
Ma'am, time's up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Janine McGrath. I'm from Winter Springs, down near Orlando, so I've travelled quite a fair way today to have this meeting. We just purchased 1224 Ruger just on a month ago, and unfortunately I didn't do my research enough to realise that this development was going through. At the time of closing, the realtor who was selling the property informed me that the sale of that house had fallen through 4 times. So I'm not sure whether the sale had fallen through for other reasons or whether it had something to do with this development. I certainly didn't expect to come in and purchase a 1910s historic home, only to find out that I will be sitting on my front porch when I get it built, overlooking a gas station. Our house is 2-story, so up the very top in the bedroom, we will be overlooking the gas station, plus the lighting that will also come into the front of the property. I would just like to say to you, if you could scale it down. I don't think that it is appropriate for this neighbourhood. I chose to live in a historic neighbourhood, in a historic house, and to continue renovating that house. I did not choose to purchase a condo and live in that type of environment. So I would like to ask you, please, to scale down the extent of this building. Thank you.
Thank you. And are you the one under the repainting and such?
Yes.
It's looking good.
It is. It's taking a lot of money that I'm hoping is actually going to increase the value of the house, not decrease it, due to this.
Very nice. Do we have one more here?
Ruth Traeger, 610 Bostwick. First of all, the gentleman knew what it was zoned when they bought the property. We don't object so much as to having that little gas station if it is in the same footprint and if it's open for maybe the same hours. But we do object to having this big monstrosity that's going to be open 24 hours a day. It is definitely encroachment into the neighborhood, and this is our neighborhood. This is a community that has, like she said, 1910. We have mostly single-family homes. This is our home. Like I said, we don't object to having maybe a small one like it was before, but to have the big monstrosity open 24 hours a day is ridiculous, especially when there are 2 7-Elevens not a half a mile away. It is not a necessity. I think we need to bring the human element in there. We are people who have put our savings in our homes. We want to live here. We want to have a good quality of life. We're not, a city needs people, needs neighborhoods. It needs development too, but most of all, if you don't have neighborhoods, good, strong neighborhoods, and people wanting to live here and make their home here, you're not going to have a city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you very much.
And thank you, all of you. I appreciate your patience for letting us speak. Thank you very much.
Rob, would you like to get up and have a brief response?
Yeah, well, that turned out to be a lot more than we thought at first, so I'm going to make my response as brief as possible. I want to try to address the comments that were made. I want to say, first of all, that I appreciate the time and the thoughts that were brought to you tonight, and I think they're all sincere, and I respect all of them. This is a really nice neighborhood, and these are nice people, and we've met with them. Everybody who spoke tonight, I think we've seen on at least 2 or 3 occasions before and had this sort of discourse with. And I think that we, unfortunately, you all were not privy to that directly, and so you didn't see the changes that were made along the way and the things that were done in response. But I want to mention some of them, and I also want to try to respond to some of these comments in a way that I think will be helpful to your decision tonight. I'll start with Holly. We're going to have ice cream and water and some of those other things too, so hopefully we're good with her ultimately. I think that the biggest thing that's coming from all these folks is that we're encroaching into a residential area. And it's an interesting and important part of your decision tonight. you saw the first thing I said was, it's commercial, right now, on the land use map. Well, you know, when I was listening to Liz talk, she was talking about this future stuff being not quite as important, I don't think, as what the zoning map says or what the code says. And the truth is, you heard your attorney say, that is what matters. That is the most important thing. It's the threshold issue for you guys to look at. It's all commercial now, even the RPPs. And the RPPs, even from a zoning standpoint, even though it's inconsistent and has to be brought into compliance at some point, still allows non-residential. It promotes office-type transition uses. The other thing is there's none of this project on that piece, but the stormwater parcel and some landscaping improvements in the wall. So the T3 and T4, those are intense commercial zonings now, zonings. But the land use, which is even more encompassing because it goes into other industrial and heavier type commercials, is also there now. It's been there for a long time. Now, the gentleman that talked about build it and they will come and that whole mentality's gone away, I hope it hadn't. I hope I'm here tonight because it's coming back, because that's what's going to keep us alive in this community. But at the end of the day, if I was R1 or R2, like Dan was talking about, or some of this, any piece of it, an inch of it, I would be encroaching. I'm agreeing with them 100% that there is an interface here between residential and commercial. And we have to be cognizant of that and sensitive to it. That's why you have expensive walls with decorative aluminum on top and fancy giant oak trees that cost a lot of money and lots of bushes that cost a lot of money. At the end of the day, it's a very expensive convenience store for these guys. It might not get built. It might be too expensive. I mean, sorry guys, I know the facts of life are it might not get built. I hope it does. And we've piled a lot of things on there to make it sensitive to this neighborhood because of the existing interface. And encroachment has a connotation of going further. That's not what's happening here. And when you look at that future land use map and that zoning map, the line's pretty clear. It's one lot further into the residential area than we're going now. And when I think when we were talking to the person on the phone who owns that house, right? I think on text messaging or on the phone or something back there, he was careful to want to point out that it's not single family, because I already got two families in there. It's a duplex. And it's a duplex because it's already zoned commercial. And it's comp planned commercial. So they're allowed to do that. And they want to make sure that they still could. I understand that. And in fact, when the question was asked about the budding property, we do intend to give that gentleman some of the land here for him to own, so he knows he has a buffer for sure forever and no questions asked. So there have been a lot of compromises along the way. If you have others to offer, you know, I've heard some tonight, give them to us. But at the end of the day, before you say no as a blanket statement, realize that this is already commercial. And if you've looked at, I hope you took the time to go look at this piece of property. If you think there's going to be a house built along Ruger Place, anywhere near Silver Beach, again, it's not happening. In my lifetime, certainly. So the question you ask yourself is, what would you like to have there if you were the king of the town? Some offices? What do you want? I mean, you want a motel? You want another big timeshare building, like right across the street to the west? That could be done. That's allowed. Or do you want somebody who's assembled these three pieces to do a comp? They're not going to have room for that. The gentleman talking about what road it fronts on, those two pieces that are on Ruger would have to front on Ruger, because they're not going to have access through our parcel if we continue to have the existing 1960s service station there, and we have to parcel off the other pieces to somebody else. And I promise you, when they come in, the lady from Winter Springs, she says she wasn't sure she was fully informed. Those people will be informed. They'll look at the zoning and the comp plan and say, okay, I can do something commercial here right now. I'm coming in with a site plan. It's not the right thing to happen here. So that's what I ask you to go back to. And we talked a lot about the human factor, and we've had a lot of emotion here tonight about that. Put yourself in their shoes and be knowledgeable about the laws that you're and the rules that you're operating under. I mean, Liz said that they're subject to interpretation, but I tried to put the ones out there that really are not. I'm reading straight from your book. I read from it. I didn't argue about it. I said, this is what it says. If you want to interpret it to say that it requires us to do something other than the list of things that are allowed, it's hard to make that interpretation. I don't even call it an interpretation. It says what it says. She said what she said. The comp plan is what you've got to live by. I didn't write it. I don't know the legislative history of it, but it is there. And I think you guys have to live by that. It's happened many times that you've looked at me and said, you have to live by it or change it.
Any questions for Rob?
Yeah, Rob, can you address the lighting?
Yes, please.
Oh, I meant to do that. And there actually were 3 or 4 technical questions like that. The access question was a good question, a good point. We spent months, literally, if not years, over a year, with the technical staff going through all those things. You guys have your professionals that looked at the photometric plan that was done for the lighting. These guys use recessed LED lights. They don't go off-site. They measure the lighting, so it's just like sound with a decibel meter. You know how much light goes to a certain distance. This is all done that way, and it's been approved. If you want to go through it, I got the guy here who can talk you through it, but you guys have professionals on staff that look at that, and they've signed off on it already. Same with the transportation, the access points.
Wait, on lighting though, will it be screened from, sticking on the issue of lighting, will it be screened from the neighborhoods?
The first point, Dino, is the lighting is already done, so if there was no screening, it complies with what's allowed to go off-site photometrically. And it's LED, and it's recessed, so it's...
Well, you're going to have the issue with turtle lighting because you're facing an approach also.
There's no question about that. So we have to get turtle lighting approved as well. So season-wise, there are aspects there. But from a standpoint of intrusion in the neighborhood, which is the primary thing, it's all been examined from a photometric standpoint. I don't have the lights to turn on and off to show you visually, but I do have the numbers, and we can look at if you want to. At the end of the day, what I said about the landscaping is, when Ruger gets completely landscaped and it's grown in 3 or 4 or 5 years, you're not going to see anything through those bushes and those trees. I mean, I don't have to. It's intuitive when you're planting a 4 or 6 inch oak tree. Eventually that thing is going to have a huge canopy, and you're not going to see through it.
While we're on lighting, I mean,
Did I? Okay.
Looking at the plans, as far as the lighting goes, it seems like most of it is on the east side of the building.
Right.
And on the back side of the building, all I see are 3 wall packs. Is that the only lighting on the back side, or am I missing something?
The LED lighting recess I was talking about before you get to there.
That's
no,
in the
I'm just
front
telling
of the building.
That's in the front, in the canopy.
That's in the front. I'm talking about the rear of the building because that's what's going to impact the neighborhood.
On the rear side of the building, there's
Western
3 accent.
elevation.
Yeah, on the western elevation, there's 3 accent lights, and those lights are more or less a downlight. They'll create a scalping effect on the back side of the building.
But, I mean, they say they're wall packs on the plans.
Yeah, we actually went to a 4-sided architecture
They hang
for this
with
building,
this.
so they hang out. They're
So then it's not a wall pack, because a wall pack's different, wall pack.
Yeah.
So,
No, these are they're gooseneck type fixture.
so are they similar to the ones that are on the north and south and elevations?
Yeah, actually, for the turtle lighting, what we've done is we actually brought the bulbs up inside of the fixture. So usually they would hang down, and then they would have a straight shot, and the turtles could see them and then go towards them. So we've actually lifted these bulbs up inside.
So there should be really no lighting being directed in a sideways manner at all. It's all going down.
It's all scalping out, and then any accent lighting that comes around the building on the faces are all focused to wash directly down the walls of the building. So when we do our photometrics for our actual building accent lights and anything that's associated or connected to the building, it's all contained, sort of ends its effectiveness at the end of the sidewalk.
Is it fair to say that there's no traditional street lighting going within the parking lots and such that just light up the whole area?
We've moved into an LED light fixture, like Attorney Merle said, and they're recessed inside the canopy. I think what you're used to seeing is the older type HID fixtures, which are about 3 to 4 inches below the canopy. So even though we could play great games with a photometric plan and show 1-foot candle at your property line, looking at it from the side, you got an incredible amount of glare off these fixtures.
So you're not going to get into that side glare.
So that does not occur anymore. It's great for everybody around the gas station. It's great for our electric bills. So.
Well, yeah.
Is it going to be 24-hour?
24-hour. All of our stores are. And on the, the LED thing, when we talk about signs, that's a bad word, but when it comes to lighting, it's changed the world of lighting in terms of intrusion.
But all that's on the eastern exposure of the building, so that's not going to.
Well, that's where the activity is,
Yeah,
Timmy,
right.
so, right.
And
The reason why those lights that Mark was talking about go around the back is because at some point we agree we're just going to put the architectural requirements of this building are going to go around the whole thing.
yeah, I just when I when I see wall pack that's on
Yeah,
there, then
that
I'm
was
thinking a Meta halide that just
understandable.
lights up the whole area. Okay.
Oh, and there was another, I'm sorry, because you raised the question about the lighting. There was another technical question. Access, the driveway. What I was going to mention about that was, A1A is a state road, so DOT regulates that, and we've had some conversations with them already. Silver Beach is a city road. We've been through the process with them, and they've accepted that driveway. Now, if you guys wanted to, make a suggestion about it, we're happy to accept it, but that's been through the technical review team review at staff, so.
They're not requiring a right turn out?
They didn't change that driveway at all. And our civil engineers here, if you want to ask them about the details of it, but I think the request was to move it as far as we could to the west, which we did, and now it's closer to the corner.
And what about the 4 condensers on the roof? Are they properly screened from the residents?
Yeah, when you see I'm familiar with this because the other sites that I've worked on are like this too. And you correct me if I'm wrong, if you would, Mark, so you don't have to get back up again. There's a parapet that actually, it recesses into the roof there, and everything's, all the equipment's behind that standing seam metal roof that you see across the front and the back.
Okay, now, I noticed you walked out with your developers. Was there talk about the ability to move the fence to accommodate and maybe give more green space to the residents?
Well, we can. I walked outside because I didn't think people didn't want me talking inside the chambers here. I got real sensitive to that. I can whisper, but some other people can't, like John. But so, Dino, we didn't really talk about that. We can. I'd like to see some sort of discussion among the board. I know you guys normally sit me down and discuss it, but if you're going to talk about that, I'd like to have the opportunity to interact and tell you what we, can or can't do. And I think that there's some opportunity there. I mean, if there's a way to make it better for the neighbors, we want these neighbors to ultimately be our customers. I've been through this many, many times where neighbors have stood up, made comments just like these folks, and then they're our best customers. So I truly mean that.
I have a question. Is there not any way that you can turn your canopy area and your building about 45, 60 degrees more towards the east and utilize the upper half of that lot, 1215, the eastern half of the lot, that would remove that convenience building off of the lot that's causing all of the problems here is that lot that runs right along Ruger. Is there not a way to move that building up and use more of the eastern part? You're not using any of the eastern part except for parking and turnaround, right?
I'm going to ask Mark Messer to get, because he can talk professionally to you about this, Suzanne, but I wanted to point out to you that the lot, I'm just going to have to approach for
Yes.
and then I'll go back and talk to the microphone.
See, I'm just talking about doing this to get it more off of Ruger.
This is the lot.
Yes, yes.
This lot's commercial now, zoned and complex.
But this is the lot that's causing all the anguish to the people that live in the neighborhood.
Well,
it's that building being right up on Ruger. So all I'm asking is simply asking the site planner, which I am not, can this building not be reoriented, turn it a few degrees and orient it more easterly to get it off of Ruger more?
Before Mark answers your question, or Peter, I will say to you that this conversation has happened between these two guys and a lot of people, both at meetings at the South Atlantic Neighborhood Association, as well as at staff meetings, several of them. So I know they have an answer.
Okay.
Yeah. The site's been laid out in quite a few different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed that this was the most efficient way to get traffic in and out of the site and maintain a safe environment for any patrons coming into the site, and also maintain a safe way to get trucks to deliver fuel in and out of the site, as well as maintain our stormwater requirements that we have for the site. So there's a lot of pieces that are going on that weren't occurring when you had the original site from the 60s that was built, that regulated now, and we need to maintain. So when Peter laid out the site, he could probably go into a little bit better of an explanation as why he put these ponds where he did and why the building was oriented where it was.
Sure, we put the two ponds to the southern part of the property basically to create a more separation from the residential as well as the motel site. Also, there's an existing gas tanks or the fuel tanks that's in the ground that we need to leave in place. So that kind of sets up our canopy and our building relationship. So that's how we kind of arrive at what you see today.
Can I interject? I've heard him say this before. I just want to make sure that I'm speaking the same language. Those fuel tanks in the ground, they're modern fuel tanks, not these old ones that leaked and have had problems, and the reason why a lot of gas stations have closed on the beach side. These are new ones. They're very expensive, and to move them is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's a business decision that's being made. To dig those up and move them just so the canopy could shift around, it's just not, we don't believe to be reasonable from a business standpoint. Now, could it physically be done? Yeah, but you can't get trucks in and out to fill those tanks up. They hit the canopy.
So, Peter, what you're saying is that this is the only layout that's possible to satisfy all the requirements?
No, this is, I believe, our fourth or fifth or sixth iteration of the site plan. We started with, I don't remember how we started. I believe we had some ponds on next to Ruger Place, and I believe the building was more closer to the southern property line before. And there was, through several different neighborhood meetings, each time we made modification based on what we heard from the neighborhood.
Well, I don't want to speak for the Ruger residents, but I would assume that if the ponds were on that western lot that's running parallel with Ruger, they'd be much happier than having a pond there than the back of a building.
Let me just say something. I've heard a lot, we got a lot of different opinions on that, is the honest answer. And the building ended up where it was in part, and if you think about this, if it's four-sided architecture, it's got the same expensive treatment around the whole thing of all the materials and the lighting and everything. Having the building back there blocks the view of what's going on out here, the commercial activity, more than anything else. Certainly more than a stormwater pond or more than an open space area. So putting that building back there, although it has been criticized as an encroachment, it's all on the T3 anyway, but it's doing them a favor by buffering sound, visual, lighting. This building is the best buffer we have from the main activity is out here where the canopies are. And so by Peter originally had the building over this way, and it's been moved all over the place. This was ultimately the best way to buffer this project from the residences.
I don't think they would agree with you on that, because I heard...
Some have, the ones that aren't here, and the ones that do. See, that's the way it works. They don't show up.
That's the number one complaint that I heard from every single person that spoke tonight, is that they really don't like that big, massive building facing Ruger. Now, here's another idea.
And it doesn't face Ruger.
Well, they're facing the back of the building. They're looking at the back of the building.
Which we believe the back of the building, without having entrances, creates a buffer itself. That's the idea. Now, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want you to understand, and I think this is important because we've lived through this for a long time now. There were a lot of people, and Chris didn't get up and talk, but he runs that organization that we appeared in front of 3 times. There were plenty of people who aren't here tonight because they liked it. That's my opinion. And although these people who spoke tonight might say, oh yeah, move it down there to the south side, open it up over there a little bit. I think that then you'd have another meeting and all the other people would show up and say, whoa, we don't want to look through there and see the canopy where people are fueling their cars. So I want you to know a lot went into this.
Well,
it's easy for me to say that, I know, but a lot of time's gone into it and a lot of changes have been made.
It's just that's the number one objection that I've heard all evening. So I'm just trying to think of other ideas that maybe would make everyone happy here, or close to happy. So could you not, one gentleman suggested, instead of the fence, just doing full green space landscape, with close to full-grown greenery.
It's funny you say that. We started with that. We started with saying, let's put a vinyl fence in a bunch of jungle, and then let's use the green. Well, then people came back and said, well, sound doesn't attenuate through vinyl like it does through concrete. But concrete needs a footer. You can't plant trees close to it. So we've been through that. And I personally think the vinyl fence is a good way to go. I've done a lot of way bigger commercial projects than this, right up against single family with vinyl in a lot of landscaping. It's a good idea. I like it. I like the green buffer. But here we did a combination. It's masonry and a lot of green. Now, moving the masonry around, it gets the same sound attenuation, I think, but more green on one side. I mean, I kind of like the look of the big oak trees behind the wall, filling it out, and then the smaller stuff in front. But it's personal taste.
Can I ask one quick question here? So, what happens if this doesn't get approved? Does it continue to exist, in your client's eyes, does it continue to exist as it is today? Or do they just chop it up, sell it as 3 parcels, and then it turns into 3 eyesores instead of 1?
I don't think you could press them for a decision tonight, but I think that to think about that as a good exercise in your decision. They have an existing operation that's a leased facility there now. It's not a company-owned store. You can imagine there's a little different perspective in a lease operation than a company-owned operation. You can reach your own conclusions about that. It is certainly property they've invested in to the west of the existing facility. Would they sell it? I would think so, and there's not much else they can do with it. Someone else could find a commercial value there. It has those commercial entitlements. As a property owner, they have property rights. One of them's to sell. Another one's to try to use it. Maybe they build something there and lease it out. I don't know. But I can promise you this, it's not going to be a single-family house. It just doesn't fit there anymore. And frankly, it's a non-conforming use.
All right. Thank you.
Teresa?
Quick question. After it's built, if it is built, how many jobs would it create?
You guys have permanent jobs? No, we have construction jobs, of course, Teresa, and that's different. But permanent jobs?
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
Any other questions?
I want to point out one thing that in the big picture, look at this thing. We all live here, and some of us a long time and many generations. This is a place where a big bridge is going to come across. I mean, I know these folks were upset about that. I'm not in charge of that. I just know what I read in the newspaper and what I've heard at City Hall and other places. And this is going to be one of the landings of one of the major east-west arteries in the town. And if you look at it now, there's 2 burned out. There's one torn down and one halfway torn down gas station there. And I think this is a very appropriate place for what they're presenting tonight in light of the type of traffic that's going to be coming through here when that bridge gets built, and the way this is going to be one of the places on the beach side where people need this convenience.
Thank you, Rob. Do board members desire to make any comments?
Actually, I had one question. I know it was stated one before, and whatever the deciding factor is on the wall, I just wanted to hear it from you. Either go be vinyl or concrete wall, you would be putting a fascia like stucco on the outside of the wall?
It's split face block, actually.
Okay. I've just seen from the...
So it comes finished.
Design, it kind of just looks like concrete.
Yeah, like John was saying, it looks like regular block, but and that's what I was saying when I was looking at it. That's just his computer-generated rendering.
It look like slate or something.
It's split face. You know what a split face block has? It's textured block.
Okay. That's all.
Same thing on the building.
Well, Randy, since you're speaking, why don't we just start around with you and see if you have any comments or further questions?
It's a tough decision to make, but I think a lot of light has been brought in on that property in particular. I've lived in that area in Ocean Dunes for all my life, and it's always been kind of just an eyesore on that corner. So I think any kind of development would be a positive. So I think all my questions have been answered on it. So.
All right, thank you. Carrie?
I appreciate everyone's comments tonight and feedback. So again, yes, a very difficult decision tonight, but thank you all for presenting your sides.
Dina?
I'm good.
Very, very difficult because of what you're looking at. An existing gas station that's small, and then a historic neighborhood that's just to the west of it. And I'll be honest with you, I went back and forth on this thing. I live not in that direct area, but just down the street. I live in the River Dunes area. And so I walked through that neighborhood. I spoke with some of the people who live over there. I've looked at the plans, and I understand, we're talking about different things. We're talking about intent, 20 years ago, whatever, this was our vision, this is what we intended to do, this is what we wanted to do, and I think it's good. And I'm going to jump at this from several different angles, because, again, it's so complicated. But I think, it's good to have a plan, it's good to have a vision, it's good to have a direction. And I've learned in business over the years, and a lot of the stuff that I've ever done is you need to start off with a good foundation and move forward. But as you're moving forward, there's going to be things that happen, things occur that's going to it's going to take you a little bit off course, and you got to make a new course. That's just a fact. I wasn't here 20 years ago. I wasn't here 10 years ago. I moved here in 2008. And when I moved here in 2008, I bought property on Beachside. Why? Because Beachside was, in my opinion, the best place to live in Daytona Beach. Rightfully so. You have access to the ocean. That right there should be the most expensive real estate in the town. And we should be doing everything we can to ensure that the property and the values over there are stable, and not just stable, but growing. And we should be doing everything we can to ensure the neighborhood preservations. Now, I'm all about bringing in business. I'm pro-business. But I also believe that you have to find a balance when the neighborhoods and the businesses coexist together, because without the one, the other fails. And we have got to do everything. And so I'm looking at this from this perspective. And there's been some times on the planning board that I've made a decision that it was appropriate to go in and do something in a neighborhood because it was the best thing to do. But in this situation, I'm looking at this, and I walked through there. This is a great, beautiful neighborhood. We have got to maintain a balance there. We've got to maintain a barrier, or we're just going to be eating up these neighborhoods because of a vision that's coming, or an idea, or a plan, or what have you. We've got to do everything we can to make sure that we have really nice, legitimate places for people to live, not to rent, to live. This is how I made my decision. This is how I'm going to make my decision. This is where I came up to. Is that if I lived on that street, if they were doing this on my street, how would I feel? It changes the whole scope of that neighborhood. It doesn't matter how you try to skin that cat. It's going to be changed. That's a neighborhood. We got to do everything we can to preserve those neighborhoods. I think, and I want to encourage each of you guys on this board to don't start something. Don't open the door to the decaying of what this town is so valuable. It's these wonderful historic neighborhoods. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate both sides, and it was tough for me. I didn't mean to take too much time in my comments, but I strongly feel this way, and I hope I conveyed the reasonings for that.
This is a tough decision. I see this property needs to be improved, and if they do something, any kind of improvement, they're going to have to come back with a wall or a fence or something like that, bring current standards. The store, as if it stays how it is now, they could start staying open 24 hours a day as it is. Like Matt said, I see the encroachment, not necessarily the encroachment in the neighborhood, because it's technically not, but I see how it reduces the buffer. The grand scheme of things, this building is only going to be 500 square feet bigger. It's going to be a little bit taller, but it's going to be 500 square feet larger than it is now. So this is a tough one. That's it.
Teresa?
What are we doing? What are we saying? Are we giving our rationales for how we're going to vote, or
If you want,
or
explain,
okay,
or you don't have to say anything.
okay, I'm good.
Okay.
No thanks.
Good. Suzanne?
I'm going to follow up Matt.
Suzanne, I know you're going to say something.
Made that much. Initially, I want to explain this to all my fellow board members. Initially, when we heard about this, I didn't understand. I thought they were asking for a new gas station and a new convenience store, and because I knew the one that was there was not open and operating. And then Reed explained to me that no, they have the right to operate this as is, and they're only wanting to improve it. So I thought to myself, well, if I lived on Ruger, I would feel exactly the same way the Ruger people feel. I only live a few blocks north of there on Beachside. And so I was against it. And then sitting here tonight, I realized that it's not just improving it. It goes way beyond that for me. And I want you to think about something. This intersection is one of the two main gateways to our oceanfront resort in Daytona Beach. In the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, we recommended and approved the beautiful new hotel condo towers that are going on A1A and Oak Ridge. And I want you all to remember how thrilled and happy we were that they're not only going to improve all of Oak Ridge with new landscaping, new streetscape, they are going to build and design an interface with all the pedestrians walking along A1A that will go onto their property, go through to the beach. It will be filled with shops, restaurants, tables and chairs and umbrellas, and it's a beautiful, beautiful intersection, one of the main intersections coming on to Daytona Beach. It's not in the CRA. So we are speaking about one of the two major intersections to Daytona Beach, Beachside Resort. And if we allow this massive expansion to go on with this Sunoco gas station, they're going to have to change zoning ordinance to allow this. You are going to put something down there that's going to be there for a long, long time. And never again will you be able to develop that land into a beautiful, like the condo hotel that's going on Oak Ridge, that would make beautiful retail shops and ice cream stores and restaurants for people at this main beautiful intersection to the beach. It will never happen on that corner, because once that Sunoco station is allowed to be a convenience store, it will become a highly profitable business. And I'm a business person, most of us are business people, you're not going to give that up. So this goes all my respect to the people that live at Ruger. I think it's valuable, and I would feel the same way if I lived there. This goes way beyond the residents of Ruger. This is one of the two main gateways to Daytona Beach Resort. You've got four corners there, and you're about to give up one of the major ones. Thank you.
We have two things to consider here. First one is the Land Development Code text amendment to allow convenience stores. And the second one is to the rezoning this into a planned commercial development. I've debated this myself. I've been out there twice. Okay, I live in what is labeled the most significant contributing historic residential structure on the beachside. Okay, so I know where you guys are at. And we're all kind of urban pioneers. We're there to try and be there and stay there and not move to Ormond Beach or Port Orange, and been there for 25 years, so I'm there. I'm also looking at what happens if this project doesn't go forward and what they've done with this project. And at first I thought, oh my God, this is the biggest Sunoco I've ever seen. And then I looked at it more closely, and it's really not. It doesn't have double gas pumps in the bays. Okay, it's just got singles. It's got lots of room for traffic to move around. It's got more greenery, more landscaping than I have ever seen almost at any gas station anywhere. On the backside, they could cram a 2,000-foot building, and they could put probably 3 pumps out there or 4 pumps out there and have just as much canopy and just as much activity in the front part of it, but it's going to be tight. It's going to have the same light, it's going to have the same noise, it's going to have the same activity. And then you can have someone come slap in some other retail space behind it, and then another one beside that, and it's going to be a much higher density. There's going to be a whole lot more going on that space with a whole lot more traffic than what you get here. They're way beyond what's required on setbacks, way beyond what's required on density, way beyond what's required in landscaping. The way the lighting is going to work on this thing, way better than the kangaroo across from my house. This is going to be set up so that it has the most minimal impact of what you can have in a development in that area compared to the alternatives. Almost every other alternative is going to be worse. Okay? It really is. You're not going, what are you going to get there? A restaurant? Well, you're going to get an awful lot of activity with that, and you're not going to get the screening, the buffering, any of that you got here. The only way that there is the buffering in what's going on here is because it's under a planned commercial development. The regular development code doesn't require any of that. I think they can actually eliminate a good chunk of the wall by tying the wall into the back of the building and in creating almost a park area behind this thing. And whether or not they include part of the drainage in that and such, so you guys have almost a park area there, I think would be prudent, because it would eliminate, to me, the worst thing that concerned me is the area behind that's blind between the store and the wall. That would be a congregation area for transients and such. And you eliminate that. You give almost the neighborhood the control and the visibility of that area. Maybe even raise a portion of the wall up a little bit, maybe 8 feet, I don't know, but something. But I just think that whole, you turn the back area into a park. The lighting is so much superior to most anything we've seen in the past. The density, as I said, is way lower. I mean, I looked at it, believe me, from the neighborhood side, hugely, because I'm here because of the neighborhoods as a resident on the beach side. Any use besides this, other than the eyesore that it is now, is going to be worse when you figure there's at least 3 possible operations going on there. So I think they have bent over backwards. I still think they're willing to. Not even the fact that Sunoco's a fairly, way better than some other operations. But here it's a lot less dense, a lot more landscaping, a lot more green space. I just think it's the best possible scenario, because something's going to happen there. It's not going to be the place to walk your dog otherwise. Someone's going to put something there. Somebody doesn't have to be nearly so friendly, and 3 meetings with the residents. That's extraordinary also. And the fact that they've worked with you and worked with you. And I see a lot of the result of that here. I see it's not just the back of a block building, which you could have. They're going to screen all the dumpsters. They're putting in all this landscaping. It's going to be something. And just what is the lesser of evils? And this is the lesser of evils. So I'm going to have to be in favor of it. That's not even taking into consideration the fact that, as a matter of law, and this is where the attorney in me comes out, Rob's absolutely correct. And that is that the comprehensive plan dictates what they're allowed to do. They're allowed to do this there. Whether they do it with our consent or through the courts, they would be allowed to do it. So let's do it in a manner that where we have control over it, where they agree to all this, instead of just saying, okay, we're just going to go by the regular zoning. You need to change this, and if not, we'll make it happen, and then we'll put in whatever we want to put in. That's not happening. They're bending over backwards. I think this is a great example of a developer coming in, working with the neighborhood, apparently satisfying a good number of neighbors, and it's not nearly as bad. And I heard a lot of information and comments that were really not on point with respect to what is actually happening here and what I see. Okay? So I think legally we're obligated to support the LDC text amendment. I think that's a matter of law. And then to go to the planned commercial development, I think is the only prudent way to do it, because it gives much more control with respect to what can happen there. So I think we need to be in favor of that. Did anybody else want to have any more comments, or do we have a motion?
Mr. Webster, I have a question. On the first item, if you guys do decide to do the text amendment, I would just recommend we try to clean that language up so that it would read convenience stores, comma, except those with fueling facilities located at the intersection of arterial roadways approved as a planned development.
Okay. And all motions should be in the positive, correct? And then if somebody wants to vote against it, they can. So do we have a motion?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to beat into it. I'm not against business in the community and building and what have you. But I think one of the biggest concerns that I heard from the people that lived over there was the fact that something's got to go there. I know, I understand that. But one of the biggest problems you're talking about is because this is there and the setup that it is, regardless of what you think or do or try, I drive by these gas stations on Beachside, that one on Main Street, and I had my buddy's daughter in my truck. We pull up, and there is a bum peeing on the side of the building. I mean, that's just that was what Ruger Place is going to have in their neighborhood. Wonderful, got great lights, wonderful. But I'm just telling you, that's what's so difficult about it. And that's why I'm a little passionate about it, because if somebody was trying to stick this in my street and I was going to drive down with my two boys in the truck and see that type of riffraff hanging out, I'd be pissed. And I'd be like, I just flushed my money down the toilet on a house, and I bought an old home, and I put my money in and restored that house. My money. I didn't get any help from anybody. And if somebody put a gas station right down the road from me, and that's what I drove by every day, I'd be madder than hell. And I would take, and I know, and I carry their passion because I know where they're coming from. So the biggest problem is it's going to be a beautiful building. I've built gas stations before. I understand the complexities and all the stuff that takes place now and how nice they look. But you're going to get the riffraff hanging out in the back. I don't care what you do or say, unless you want to hire armed security that surrounds it. And I think that was one of the biggest issues that I heard from the people that live there. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to get upset. I'm not trying to act like a heathen here. But I live close to that neighborhood. And if somebody was trying to put one of these, and it's at the end of the day, it's like, let's do what's right for the people. I mean, come on. And I know that one of these is, we have to approve this because, it's a law. Okay, then why are we voting on it? If we have to approve it, then approve it. Why?
That was my question. What did you mean, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, if it's against the law,
if you said legally we have to vote on it for this.
Then I don't need to vote.
All right, whoa.
My point is, I don't want people feeling pressured into going a certain way because we're throwing these legal jargons around. If that be the case, let's just throw it out, throw the agenda. We'll call it an early night, because if the law is going to say do it, then what are we wasting our time for? Forgive me if I'm being rude and crude, but I feel like the people need someone to stand up for them and quit having these pushed around by terms and stuff that they have no clue what's going on.
All done?
I'm finished.
Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if we take it step by step, the first thing that would be required is a text amendment to allow this use. So if we just take it one by one, you might find it a little more orderly.
Yes, thank you. So do we have a motion to approve the text amendment with the revision as noted by Carrie?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion with respect to the text amendment? Tim wants to speak.
Yeah. I know. Right now, we have an operating gas station that already has a convenience store, do we not?
Yes.
So the only reason we're doing this text amendment is because of this additional parcel that's coming in there that we're bringing into the mix, that RP parcel.
RP and the T.
And to allow the convenience store with the gas station.
But what I'm saying is right now, if we don't do anything, there's already a gas station there with a convenience store component because it was because it's there right now.
It's non-conforming.
So
Correct.
it's a non-conforming use. So, but I mean, if we do nothing, you're still going to have a gas station there with a convenience store that can still, if they decided to, stay open 24 hours a day. I mean, they have to stop selling beer at whatever point in time. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's just, we've already got it there.
I understand.
And the way it is now, there is no buffer between the neighborhood because it's such an old building. It was built before there was requirements to have a buffering wall, be it a fence or a block, masonry block. So, I mean, you've got it now. So the only reason it's changed is because they went one parcel over into a zoned area, I mean, and it's a non-conforming use as it is now.
Sure, but in order for that to happen, you have to change it. So, in essence, they're protected by it.
What he's saying, you have it now, and a bum might be more inclined to pee against an old building than a brand new lit up one.
Well, I mean, it's just, right now, it's just open space behind this building. No, but one thing is,
Dino, you would know.
Yeah. You've traveled with him.
That was you!
No, but what I'm saying is, right now, we've already, even though it's a non-conforming use, it's already an operating gas station with a convenience store, and we're stuck with it. So do we stay stuck with what we have now, which is a substandard product, or do we expand it by 500 square feet and put a wall up and separate it more from the neighborhood than it is, because it's not separated at all right now? That's the first thing I noticed is when I drove through there, is that it's just a straight shot. I mean, you're right there, which means that homeless guy that goes to shade tree in that empty space behind there right now. If he goes behind, now if we move the building, I mean the wall closer to the building, you can't move it right up against the building because you got to have your rear fire exits and all that. But within 5 feet, so you have your sidewalk around for maintenance reasons, stuff like that. Then you reduce the space there. But the point I'm trying to make is we've already got a gas station convenience store that's already operating. They're selling beer and all that kind of stuff now. Or it's already there. So that's all I have to say.
I have a comment.
Okay. Suzanne?
Tim, I think the point is that the implication that I'm hearing, not outright, but what I'm hearing is this would not be financially acceptable to them if they could not build this larger building and more space. They wouldn't keep their filling station there. They would sell it to somebody else or do something else. I think somebody even asked. I think somebody even asked the question, would you sell off the other lots and walk away from it?
And he said maybe, but
yes.
we're talking about 500 square feet. It's not turning into a 5,000 or 3,000 square foot building. It's going from approximately 1,900 to a little over 2,400. So 500 square feet.
I think you would find they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting in the new tanks. They have no intention of having that store close. Right now, it's a leased store, not a company store. It's going to become a company store if it's improved. Otherwise, it will stay there. It will continue to be a convenience store with a gas station there. That is not going away.
But it's not going to be nearly as financially successful as with the new convenience store. I'm pretty sure that's why they're spending the money to do it.
Well, I'm sure they're spending the money to make money, yes.
Yes, okay. So what I'm saying is that you are really entrenching now a convenience gas station on that corner for as many years as I'm probably going to be left here in Daytona Beach. That's what I'm saying. It's not just 500 square feet, Tim. It's a lot more than that. It's this large filling station on the corner on Ruger's Street, but on the corner of the main thoroughfare coming into Daytona Beach, which should be a beautiful beach resort. All four corners should reflect that, not a filling station. A filling station has no place there, and not in the future plans. It should not be there.
Thank you. All right. We had a motion. We had a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, well, why don't we do a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson-Colacas?
Yes.
Mr. Balkas?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
No.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Bohan?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Webster?
Yes. All right. Now, with respect to what was item 6, which is the rezoning to a PCD, is that fine as it is, Carrie?
Unless you wanted to talk about the wall, or...
Okay, but I mean, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for approval of item 6, with the exception that I'd like the developers to work with either with city staff as to possibly moving the wall easterly to allow for more green space as a buffer zone in this area as much as possible before the April 25th planning board meeting, and so that way I'm moving for approval pending that type of adjustment on the plans.
Do we have a second?
Could you restate the motion?
Okay, I move for approval of item 6, Sunoco as Silver Beach rezoning to PCD, pending a movement of the wall easterly to allow for more green space as per staff recommendation, like I set up a meeting with the staff prior to the April 25th, 2013 planning board meeting.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Do we need any further discussion?
I'm not as confident in the movement of the wall as you are. I don't understand if the distance between the wall and the building helps mitigate any sound or any other interference.
One of the neighbors did stand up and say that even though they're against this project, they did say that more green space would be preferable.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to accommodate at least some of the desires. I mean, obviously, I know I'm going to be upsetting some people out there, and I apologize for that. But I'm trying to mitigate this as much as possible.
And if I understand the motion, Dino, it's not conditioned on an absolute movement of the wall, but just that they make a good faith effort to look at the issue of moving the wall.
Yes. I mean, and that's why I'm saying that I want this to go to city staff, for staff to work with them as to how they would recommend the wall be moved, you know?
And did we have a second?
You did.
Okay. And any further discussion?
Comments?
You really need to, John. No, John, you've had your comments, okay? We've had enough. Okay, then let's do a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Palakis?
Yes.
Mr. Papadakis?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
No.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Register?
Yes.
Mr. Bohan?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Webster?
Yes, and the motion passes. I want to thank you all for coming out. I think you have had a positive impact on the project, and I think they will continue to work with you. We appreciate your involvement.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Okay. This is a long one.
I know.
I apologize. I was not that.
A little passion. A little passion. Okay, everybody, we're going to try and move along here. The next item dealing with the special events. Actually, I had a meeting with the chamber the Friday before Bike Week, and it was a constructive meeting. And then there's Bike Week, and then there's today. And so, what I'd like to do is actually roll this till next month. Have a chance to get back with the chamber officials a little bit more and talk with them. There actually was at least a desire to discuss things that can be done with Bike Week to make it less of an impact on residents and such. And so since I think a lot of this deals with that, just roll that till next month's meeting. Unless anybody has anything they need to say about Bike Week at this point. All right. Redevelopment projects update.
I'll try to be brief, really. There's just a couple things on the list that I have here that I want to touch base on. And one thing that's not, and that is just to remind you that Wednesday is going to be the second reading and the public hearing for the proto group for the hotel. So again, encourage everyone if they want to come to the meeting and offer support if that's appropriate. That will be Wednesday at 6 o'clock. But I also want to let you know that at 4 o'clock, there's going to be the Land Development Code rewrite that is going to be presented to the City Commission. There'll be a discussion in a workshop forum. So
4 o'clock this Wednesday?
This Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So we haven't seen that in a while, and this will be an opportunity for the new City Commission to have an opportunity to hear a presentation from staff, which I don't see anymore. Okay. And I think you've all seen some of the information about the tourism study and some of the articles in the newspaper, and I encourage you, if you've got any questions or want to talk about it, call me. I'm here to try to clarify anything that's going on. The one that is most concerning right now is the county delegation for the authority of the CRAs. There is discussion that was just about the new CRAs, and that is supposed to come up on Thursday for the county to consider changing the way CRAs are managed and operated, so that it's pulling a lot more of the authority back to DeLand and to the county. And the primary interest is to take the revenues that have been going in the TIF from the county and the special districts and cutting those out, eliminating all of the different special districts, reducing the general growth, reducing the county's general fund by looking at general growth and say, this is your tax increment based on some formula that we have in our analysis. So, for example, if the area from the hotel, let's say, in Main Street, grew at 5% in increment, the county was growing, let's say, they saw that the county was growing at 3%. You'll get 2% of that increment. You won't get the full increment from the county out of the general fund. Then the most concerning of all of the discussion that's going on is the 5% requirement on counties. Everything the county has that they do give in the future would be all for capital. And depending on who you ask, the discussion about capital and its definition is not clear. And there's a resolution coming out Thursday to vote on, again with new CRAs, that says that the capital is going to be the part that the county is going to pay for, and the city is going to have to pay for 95% of its money in the tax increment fund, 95% as capital. That will leave 5% for all the maintenance, operating, administration, and everything else. When you do the math, that leaves a few $1,000s in most of the redevelopment areas. It leaves $74,000, I believe, is our estimate right now, about what would be available. Cut out about $400,000 out of the Main Street operating and admin and everything else that goes into that. No more code enforcement. There'll be no community policing. There'll be none of that. It all ends. Now, I'm saying this as if it's going to affect existing redevelopment areas. Why? Because the door's open for that. So while if you talk to someone now at the county, they're going to tell you that, no, we're talking about new ones in the future. Well, the door has been open for the existing. It's in the resolution. You're welcome to go online and look at the February or the March 21st meeting online with the county agenda, and you can read that resolution for yourself, rather than me read all the different pieces in it. It's very concerning to all of the municipalities. We're asking for at least a conversation and for some slowing down of this, and so that we can have some input. Right now, we've had no input on this provision. It's going forward for a vote. So that's where things are at. We aren't asking everyone to run over to DeLand on Thursday. You can hear it if you want to on the audio. It'll be playing around 10 or 10:30.
Will it be open to public discussion?
No.
They're not even opening it up to public discussion.
It's, as I understand it, it's going to be a resolution, can be voted on. It's not required to have the discussions.
Can a member of the county councilman pull it off of the consent agenda and put it on?
It's not on consent. It's a resolution. So really the question is, right now, it's only going to be for the proposed ones. Now, we're a community redevelopment agency, and while I see nothing in front of us right now to expand any of the existing redevelopment areas or add a new one somewhere in Daytona Beach, there are other cities that are trying to do that, would like to establish their first in their city because they see the value of it as a primary economic development tool to rebuild infrastructure and rebuild the neighborhoods. But again, I don't want to bore you with it. I just want to make sure you got a heads up on this. And if it comes down to a resolution for existing CRAs, believe me, we'll be back to you on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Reed.
You're welcome.
All right, any further board comments for the evening? And it was a long meeting. I was
Yes.
looking back saying, oh, it's only 8 o'clock, and that clock is off.
Suzanne wanted us to have a little powwow at the end of the meeting as to how we could how we could turn around and improve the area and stuff like that. That's just a little picture that I got from the IAPA that I thought that people might want to look at. You know, obviously the Space Needle came down, and I had thrown out an idea last year, but this is this is something that, and I sent it to the city manager and what have you, but this is a sightseeing tower that the families could ride up the elevator up the middle to the top of the tower and look around Daytona Beach or what have you. And the people who are thrill seekers could actually ride a roller coaster looping around it, going up and down. I just thought that was a really neat idea, and I'm just throwing it out. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dino. Carrie.
And you can throw it away.
No comments tonight.
Randy? Matt?
I'm done.
Tim?
I'm in and out.
Teresa? Dylan? Suzanne? Thank you all very much. Long meeting. We stand adjourned.